Perhaps you are not a product of nature. Perhaps someone designed you hundreds of thousands of years ago. Tonight I'm going to tell you 3 secrets that will change how you see yourself forever. Secret number 1. Hidden inside your DNA is a mathematical signature that couldn't have evolved naturally. The probability? 1 in 10 to the power of 87. That's more atoms than exist in the entire observable universe. Secret number 2. In 1998, a laboratory analyzed DNA from elongated skulls found in Peru. The results were so disturbing that 2 scientists refused to ever publish them, and 1 disappeared. What did they find? I'll tell you, but not yet. And secret number 3. There's a room inside the Great Pyramid that no one is allowed to enter. Not tourists, not archaeologists, not even the Egyptian government's own people. What's in that room? A map. A map left by those who came before. A map that shows you're not who you think you are. If you're still listening, comment your time zone or where you're listening from right now. Let me know you're here with me. And if you want to travel through the mysteries of history every night, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because what I'm about to share with you, you won't find in any textbook. Now, close your eyes. Imagine you're standing in a cave 30,000 years ago. Fire flickers beside you. Shadows dance on cold stone walls. You hear wind whistling through distant mountain crevices, carrying the scent of damp earth after rain. In your hand, a piece of black charcoal. And in your mind, an idea that no other creature on this planet has ever had. You want to draw. You want to tell a story. You want to leave a mark for people not yet born. This isn't instinct. This is something else. Something that science calls self-aware consciousness. Something that appeared suddenly in evolutionary history, as if someone flipped a switch in our ancestors' brains. But here's what they don't teach you in school. Here's what makes evolutionary biologists lie awake at night. That switch, it actually exists. And someone flipped it. 300,000 years ago, a new species appeared in East Africa. Homo sapiens. Us. And the strange thing is, our brain tripled in size in just 2 million years. In evolutionary terms, that's not gradual development. That's an explosion. It's like a monkey suddenly knowing how to fly a plane. Darwin said evolution is slow, incremental, messy. But this looks designed. This looks like someone knew exactly which genetic switches to flip to create a being capable of language, art, religion, science. And here's where it gets disturbing. In your DNA right now, there's a gene called FOXP2. The language gene. It allows you to speak, to think in words, to create complex sentences. No other creature has it, and it appeared suddenly, with no transitional phase, like a program that was installed. Stay with me, because in the next 90 minutes, I'm going to show you evidence that mainstream science refuses to discuss. Those elongated skulls with brain capacity 25% larger than normal humans. The civilizations that vanished before the Great Flood, leaving behind architectural works we still can't recreate today. And the segments of DNA in your body that have no evolutionary origin whatsoever, as if they were copied and pasted from somewhere else, somewhere not on Earth. But here's what I need you to understand before we go deeper. This isn't about aliens flying in spaceships. This is about something far more profound, something that happened here on Earth, long before recorded history. There was a civilization, advanced, conscious, capable, and they didn't just leave ruins. They left you. They modified your ancestors' DNA. They designed you on purpose, with intention, with love. And then they died. But before they died, they made sure you would remember. They encoded the memory in your genes. They built monuments that would survive millennia. They scattered clues across every ancient culture. And now, finally, we're advanced enough to read what they wrote. The message has been waiting in your cells for hundreds of thousands of years. And tonight, you're going to read it. You're going to understand where you really came from, who designed you, why they did it, and what they want you to do now. If you stay with me through this journey, through ancient caves and underwater cities, through genetic laboratories and mountaintop wells, I promise you 3 things. 1. You'll discover why you sometimes feel like you don't belong on this planet. 2. You'll understand the dreams you have of places you've never been. And 3. You'll know, finally know, that you are not an accident. You are intentional. You are designed. You are loved by beings who died to give you life. Are you ready for that truth? Can you handle knowing that everything you were taught about human origins is incomplete? Because once you know, you can't unknow. Once you see the evidence, you can't unsee it. Once you feel the connection to those who came before, you can't unfeel it. Your life will change. Tonight, right now, in the next 90 minutes. And here's the first secret I'll reveal at minute 30. The DNA results from those Paracas skulls? They showed genetic markers that don't match any known species on Earth. Not human, not primate, not anything in the database. The laboratory called it contamination. But it wasn't contamination. It was evidence. Evidence of the ones who designed you. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, you need to understand when this all began, when consciousness first woke up in the human mind, when the switch was flipped, when everything changed. Take a deep breath. Let your body sink into comfort. We're about to begin a journey through time, a journey about origins, about buried truth, about the biggest question humanity has never dared to ask aloud. If we were truly designed, then who was the designer? And more importantly, why did they leave? The answers are hidden in 3 places, in stone monuments scattered across the globe, in myths told by every ancient culture, and in your DNA. And we're going to find them, all of them, starting right now. Chapter 1. The First Morning of the Mind. The first light of dawn breaks through the mountain gap. You can hear it, can't you? The silence before the world wakes. Birds beginning their morning songs somewhere in the distance. The smell of wet earth after the night's rain, rich and dark, filling your lungs. And there, under an acacia tree, a figure stirs. This is 300,000 years ago, East Africa, the Great Rift Valley. You open your eyes. Around you, others are waking too, your tribe. But something is different today. Something inside you has changed. You look down at your hands, long fingers, flexible joints. You pick up a stone, and in your mind something extraordinary happens. an idea forms. Not just the impulse to use the stone, but the thought about the thought. You see yourself using it. You imagine what it could become. This is the moment everything changed. This is the morning consciousness was born. But here's what science doesn't tell you in those neat textbooks. This moment, this awakening, it didn't happen gradually. There's no slow climb from simple tool use to complex thinking. It's like someone uploaded new software into the human brain overnight. Let me show you what I mean. 2 million years ago, our ancestor Homo erectus had a brain about 2.2 pounds. That's roughly 40 ounces. They used basic tools, controlled fire, lived in groups. Standard primate behavior, just slightly more sophisticated. Fast forward to 300,000 years ago, and Homo sapiens emerges with a brain weighing about 3 pounds. That's 48 ounces. A 50% increase in just 1.7 million years. You might think, well, that's still a long time. But in evolutionary terms, it's a blink, a heartbeat. And it's not just the size, it's what that brain could do. Homo erectus could chip rocks into hand axes. Useful, yes. But Homo sapiens? We could plan hunting strategies weeks in advance. Create art that captured not just what we saw, but what we felt. Develop languages with grammar, tense, hypothetical thinking. We could imagine gods, create myths, contemplate our own deaths. This isn't just more processing power. This is a completely different operating system. You're still there, aren't you? In that moment 300,000 years ago, under the acacia tree, holding that stone. But now, feel the weight of it differently. Because in your mind, you can see not just what it is, but what it could be. A scraper, a weapon, a gift, a symbol. This is abstract thinking. And here's the mystery that keeps evolutionary biologists awake at night. This capacity, this ability to think in symbols and metaphors, it requires very specific brain structures. The prefrontal cortex, massively expanded. Broca's area and Wernicke's area, regions that handle language production and comprehension, suddenly sophisticated beyond anything in the animal kingdom. The superior temporal sulcus, allowing you to understand that other beings have minds like yours. These structures didn't evolve piece by piece. They appeared as a package, a complete upgrade, like someone knew exactly what needed to change and changed it all at once. Now, let me tell you about a gene, FOXP2. Scientists call it the language gene, though that's a simplification. What it really does is coordinate the fine motor control needed for speech and the neural pathways for grammatical processing. Without FOXP2, you can make sounds, but you can't make language. Chimpanzees have a version of this gene, so do mice. But the human version, it has 2 critical mutations that theirs don't have. And these mutations appeared, as far as we can tell, right around the time Homo sapiens emerged. Not gradually accumulating over millions of years, but suddenly. Both mutations, together, creating something entirely new. Can you feel it? That slight unease in your chest. Because this is where the official story starts to crack. Evolution works through random mutation and natural selection. Slow, incremental, messy. But this looks designed. This looks like someone knew exactly which genetic switches to flip to create a being capable of language, art, religion, science. You're still with me. Good, because here's something they discovered in 2019 that never made mainstream news. Scientists found that the FOXP2 gene, the one that gives you language, it doesn't just control speech. It controls something else. Something they didn't expect. It controls your ability to dream in narratives. To tell yourself stories while you sleep. Why would evolution create a gene that lets you dream in stories? Unless, of course, stories were how the designers communicated with you. Through dreams. Through genetic memory. Through the narratives your DNA tells your sleeping brain. Think about that. Every dream you've ever had might be a message. Keep listening. This gets stranger. Are you wondering yet? Are you asking yourself, could this really be true? Stay with me, because the evidence gets stranger. Let me take you somewhere else now. Southern France, a cave called Chauvet. The year is 1994. 3 spelunkers crawl through a narrow passage and emerge into a massive cavern. They shine their lights on the walls, and they gasp. Horses, lions, rhinoceroses, painted in ochre and charcoal, with shading, perspective, movement, captured so beautifully it could hang in a modern museum. These paintings are 32,000 years old. But here's what shocked the archaeologists. There's no progression. No earlier, cruder attempts. The first cave art we find is already masterful, already showing artistic techniques that wouldn't be invented again until the Renaissance. Think about that. Imagine if tomorrow archaeologists discovered an iPhone buried in an ancient Roman ruin. That's the level of anachronism we're talking about. The skills displayed in these paintings should have taken thousands of years to develop. Trial and error, learning, refinement. But instead they appear fully formed, as if the knowledge was already there, already known. You're lying in your bed right now, I hope. Comfortable, safe. But in your mind you're standing in that cave, torch in hand, looking at those painted horses, their legs positioned to show galloping motion, their heads turned just so to show depth. And you're wondering, who taught these people to draw like this? Let me tell you what the artists themselves might have answered. Nobody taught us. We remembered. Because here's a concept that will become important as we go deeper. What if knowledge isn't just learned? What if it can be inherited? Modern epigenetics is starting to prove this. Trauma experienced by your grandparents can alter gene expression in you. Fears can be passed down through generations without any direct teaching. The children of Holocaust survivors show measurable genetic changes related to stress response. They inherited their ancestors' trauma at the molecular level. If trauma can be inherited, why not knowledge? Why not skill? Why not the memory of a time when your ancestors knew more than they should have? You're still with me, aren't you? I can feel you there. Your breathing has slowed. Your mind is opening. Good, because we're going somewhere even stranger now. Let's talk about astronomy. Ancient cultures around the world, separated by oceans and thousands of miles, all had sophisticated knowledge of the stars. The Maya calculated the length of the solar year to within seconds of our modern measurement, without telescopes. The builders of Stonehenge aligned their monument to the summer solstice with perfect precision 4,000 years ago. The Egyptians oriented the 3 pyramids of Giza to match Orion's belt exactly as it appeared 10,500 years before they were built. How did they know what the stars looked like 10 millennia earlier? The Dogon tribe in Mali has myths about a companion star to Sirius, Sirius B, which isn't visible to the naked eye. Modern telescopes didn't confirm its existence until 1962, but the Dogon have been talking about it for centuries. This isn't just impressive observation skills. This is knowledge that shouldn't exist. Knowledge that suggests these ancient peoples either had technology we don't know about, or they inherited information from someone who did. Can you picture it? A night sky 30,000 years ago, clearer than any sky you've ever seen. No light pollution, no smog. You lie on your back, looking up. And the stars aren't just beautiful dots to you. You know them. You know their names, their movements, their meanings. You know things about them that you shouldn't be able to know. How? Maybe because somewhere deep in your cellular memory, someone already taught your ancestors. Someone who came from those stars. I know what you're thinking. This sounds like ancient aliens nonsense, pseudoscience, conspiracy theory. But what if I told you that the conspiracy isn't the idea that we were designed? What if the conspiracy is hiding the evidence that we were? And here's a small truth to carry you into the next chapter. The value of an action doesn't lie in whether you see its results. Sometimes the most important things we do without knowing why. Sometimes we're following a blueprint we can't quite see, a design we've forgotten we're part of. Those ancient humans painting in caves, carving notches in bones to track lunar cycles, burying their dead with ceremony and care. They were doing something profound. They were proving they knew they were part of something bigger, something that transcended their individual lives. They were proving they understood purpose, and maybe that understanding was given to them. Maybe it was written into their genes along with the capacity for language, for art, for wonder. Maybe when that genetic switch flipped 300,000 years ago, it didn't just make them smarter, it made them remember. Do you feel it? That strange sensation, like a memory rising from somewhere deep inside you? That's not coincidence. That's recognition. Because you carry that same DNA. You have those same mutations in your FOXP2 gene, the same expanded prefrontal cortex, the same capacity for abstract thought that appeared so suddenly in your ancestors. You are the continuation of that design. And here's something beautiful to sleep on. Every single human alive today, all 8 billion of us, we can trace our maternal lineage back to one woman who lived about 150,000 years ago in Africa. Scientists call her mitochondrial Eve. We're all her descendants, all carrying her genetic legacy. One source, one origin, one design. Doesn't that feel less like random evolution and more like a deliberate plan? One woman, carrying the upgraded genome, and from her, an entire species spreads across the planet. Can you see yourself walking beside your ancestors now? Feel the cool morning air on your skin. Hear the crunch of dry grass under your feet. You're part of an unbroken chain stretching back 300,000 years. Every person in that chain carried the same spark of consciousness that you have now. The same ability to wonder, to question, to imagine, to know that they know. And here's your first small truth, your first reward for staying with me. The expansion of the human brain wasn't gradual. Fossil records show 3 distinct jumps. 3 moments when brain size increased dramatically within just a few generations. 300,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago. 3 upgrades, 3 installations, 3 moments when someone, somewhere, edited the code. That's not evolution. That's engineering. And now you know. Sleep on that. Let it settle into your bones. Because in the next chapter, we're going to look at what those engineers left behind. The fingerprints they couldn't hide. The evidence carved in stone. Chapter 2. Traces of the Invisible Hand. You're standing in a cave again, but this time it's not Africa. This is southern France, the Dordogne Valley, and the year is September, 1940. 4 teenagers and a dog named Robot are exploring the woods above the village of Montignac. Robot disappears down a hole. The boys follow, squeezing through a narrow shaft, sliding down into darkness. They light matches, and what they see stops their hearts. The walls are alive. Thousands of animals painted in earth tones, charcoal blacks, rich ochres. Horses galloping across the stone. Bulls so massive they seem to breathe. Deer, bison, cats, bears, creatures rendered with such skill, such understanding of anatomy and movement, that for a moment the boys forget they're looking at images 17,000 years old. This is Lascaux, and it shouldn't exist. Let me tell you why. When you learn a skill, you progress gradually. A child learning to draw starts with stick figures, then basic shapes, then proportions improve, shading appears, perspective develops. It takes years, sometimes decades, to reach mastery. Civilizations learning to create art should follow the same pattern. Early attempts should be crude, simple scratches on bone, basic outlines. Slowly, over generations, the quality improves. Except that's not what we find. The oldest cave art we've discovered is already sophisticated, already demonstrating techniques like shading, perspective foreshortening, and composite movement. Already masterful. It's as if someone handed Stone Age humans a complete manual on artistic technique and said, "Here, start with Chapter 10. Stop for a moment. Feel the surface beneath you. The bed, the chair, whatever you're resting on. Feel how solid it is, how real. Now imagine that same feeling, but you're touching a stone wall in a cave in France, 17,000 years ago. The coldness, the roughness. Can you feel it? That's not imagination. That's genetic memory. Your ancestors touched those walls, and somewhere in your cells, you remember. You can feel the cool air of the cave on your skin now, can't you? The smell of damp limestone. The flickering shadows from the torch. You reach out and touch the wall. The paint is rough under your fingertips, mineral pigments mixed with animal fat. 17,000 years old, but the colors are still vivid, still alive. And you wonder, who was the artist? What were they thinking as they painted this? But here's what's really interesting. These aren't just random animal pictures. They're arranged in patterns, sequences. At Lascaux, researchers have found that certain animal groupings align with seasonal star constellations. The paintings form a kind of astronomical calendar, marking the passage of time through the year. Stone Age people weren't just artists. They were astronomers. Now, you might say, well, people have always looked at stars. It's natural to notice patterns. But there's a difference between noticing the Big Dipper and calculating the precession of the equinoxes. Now, archaeologists will tell you these paintings developed gradually over thousands of years. They'll show you a timeline. But here's what they don't show you. There are no earlier attempts, no practice sketches, no crude beginnings. The oldest cave art we've found is already masterful. It's like finding a smartphone in ancient Rome. Either our dating is wrong or someone taught them. I know which one makes more sense to me. What do you think? Comment taught if you think they were taught. Comment evolved if you think they figured it out themselves. Let me take you somewhere else. England. Salisbury Plain. A circle of massive stones standing silent against the sky. Stonehenge. Built around 3000 BC, though some of the stones may be much older. Each of those huge sarsen stones weighs about 25 tons. That's 50,000 pounds. They were transported from quarries 25 miles away. Without wheels, without metal tools, without draft animals, because horses weren't domesticated in Britain yet. Just human muscle, wooden rollers, and rope. That alone is impressive. But here's what makes archaeologists nervous. The stones are positioned with astronomical precision. The heel stone aligns perfectly with the sunrise on the summer solstice. Other stones mark the winter solstice, the equinoxes, even the 18.6-year cycle of lunar standstills. To achieve this precision, the builders needed to observe the sky for decades. They needed to understand geometry. They needed to calculate angles to within fractions of a degree. And they did this 4,500 years ago, when according to our textbooks, these people were barely civilized farmers. You're there now, aren't you? Standing in the center of the stone circle at dawn. The first ray of sunlight shoots through the heel stone, illuminating the altar stone at your feet. Perfect alignment, perfect calculation. And you feel it, that same unease. This knowledge came from somewhere. Let me show you something even stranger. Egypt, the Giza Plateau, 3 pyramids perfectly aligned. The Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BC. The numbers associated with this structure make engineers uncomfortable. It's oriented to true north, with an accuracy of 3/60ths of a single degree, better than most modern buildings. The base is level to within less than an inch across its entire 756-foot length. The 4 sides are equal to within 2 inches. These tolerances are extraordinary, even with modern laser-guided equipment. With copper tools and stone hammers, it should be impossible. But here's where it gets really strange. The 3 pyramids of Giza are positioned to mirror the 3 stars of Orion's belt. Not as Orion appeared in 2500 BC, when the pyramids were built, but as it appeared in 10,500 BC, 6,000 years before the pyramids existed. How did the Egyptians know what the sky looked like 6 millennia earlier? Did they have records going back that far? Or did they inherit the knowledge from someone who was there? You can see it now, can't you? The night sky over Egypt, 10,500 years before Christ. The Nile floods, depositing rich black soil across the valley. And someone stands there, looking up at Orion, and decides, someday, someone will build monuments to match these stars. And 6,000 years later, they do. That's not just impressive record-keeping. That's a plan that transcends normal human timescales. That's thinking in terms of civilizational memory, deep time. Unless, of course, the pyramids are older than we think. Unless they were built 10,500 BC, and the pharaohs just claimed them later. But that would mean there was an advanced civilization in Egypt thousands of years before civilization was supposed to exist. And that would rewrite everything. Are you still comfortable? Still warm in your bed? Good, because we're going somewhere colder now. Peru, the Andes Mountains, a cemetery called Paracas. In the 1920s, archaeologist Julio Tello discovered hundreds of graves containing elongated skulls. Not slightly elongated, dramatically stretched. almost alien in appearance. Now, many ancient cultures practiced cranial deformation, binding infants' heads to create a distinctive shape. Status symbol, tribal identity. We understand that. But these Paracas skulls are different. Normal cranial deformation changes the shape of the skull, but not its volume. It's like squeezing a balloon. The volume stays the same, just the form changes. The Paracas skulls have 25% greater cranial capacity than normal human skulls. 25% more brain space. You can't achieve that through binding. That's genetic. That's a different kind of human. In 2014, samples from these skulls were sent for DNA analysis. The results were so unusual that the lab initially thought there was contamination. The mitochondrial DNA showed mutations unknown in any human, primate, or animal in the genetic database. Let me say that again. Unknown in any creature on Earth. The researcher, Brian Forrester, reported that the lab refused to publish the full results. Too controversial. Too disturbing to the accepted narrative. But whispers got out. And those whispers said the DNA suggested these beings were a different branch of the human family tree. Or perhaps not human at all. Can you picture them? These people with the large, elongated skulls? Walking through the markets of ancient Peru, perhaps a head taller than everyone else. Did the normal humans worship them? Fear them? Or did they not even realize these beings were different? And here's the question that should keep you awake, but probably won't, because you're already drifting, already sinking into that space between waking and dreaming where truth feels closer. If these beings with the enlarged skulls were the designers, if they were the ones who modified our ancestors' genes 300,000 years ago, then where did they go? Why are they no longer here? Hold that question. We'll come back to it. But first, let me show you one more thing. The golden ratio. 1.618. You know it, even if you don't know you know it. It's the proportion that appears everywhere in nature. In the spiral of a nautilus shell, in the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, in the curve of a wave, in the proportions of your own body, the ratio of your forearm to your hand, your height to your navel. It's called phi, and it's considered one of the most beautiful numbers in mathematics. Now, here's what's interesting. Ancient architects knew about phi. The Parthenon in Greece is built using golden ratio proportions throughout. The pyramids incorporate it. Medieval cathedrals are designed around it. Renaissance artists like Leonardo da Vinci used it obsessively. But these cultures, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, all discovered the same mathematical constant, and all decided it was sacred, divine, the key to beauty and harmony. What are the odds of that? Unless, of course, they didn't discover it independently. Unless they all inherited it from a single source. A source that understood mathematics at a level that would take humanity thousands of years to rediscover. Here's something you can verify yourself. Go online right now and search for the Antikythera mechanism. It's a Greek device from 2,000 years ago that calculates astronomical positions. Scientists needed X-rays and decades of study to understand how it works. It's so advanced that nothing like it appears again in human technology for another 1,400 years. How? How did ancient Greeks create something we couldn't recreate until the 20th century? Unless they didn't create it, unless they found it, unless they were copying something older, something from before the flood. I'll show you more devices like this. Keep listening. You're seeing patterns now, aren't you? Connections forming in your mind like constellations in the night sky. Cave paintings that appear fully formed, astronomical knowledge that shouldn't exist. architectural precision that defies the tools available, skulls that suggest a different kind of human, and running through all of it, the golden ratio, that perfect proportion, showing up again and again like a signature, like someone left their mark. Here's what this teaches you. Here's the small gift you can carry into sleep tonight. Knowledge is never truly lost. It might be forgotten, buried, hidden, but it leaves traces, fingerprints in stone, shadows in DNA, echoes in the way we still build, still create, still reach for beauty. Your ancestors knew things, important things, and even though you don't consciously remember, even though the textbooks don't teach it, even though the academic establishment denies it, that knowledge is still inside you, in your genes, in your intuition, in that feeling you sometimes get, that you're capable of more than you know. Do you feel yourself there with me? Walking through history, touching these ancient stones, looking at these enigmatic skulls, tracing the golden ratio in architecture and nature. That's good. Stay there. Because here's what I haven't told you yet. All of these anomalies, these impossible achievements, these traces of advanced knowledge in primitive times, they cluster around certain dates. 10,500 BC, 3000 BC, around 1500 BC. It's almost like there were pulses, moments when knowledge flooded back into human civilization, like someone was checking in, leaving reminders, or maybe returning briefly to guide us back on track. The Sumerians, who appeared suddenly in Mesopotamia around 3000 BC with a fully formed civilization, complete writing system, advanced mathematics, legal codes, and astronomical charts. They said their knowledge was given to them by the Apkallu, wise beings who came from the sea. The Maya, whose calendar was so sophisticated it could track Venus's cycles over thousands of years. They said their wisdom came from Kukulkan, the feathered serpent who descended from the sky. The Egyptians credited Thoth, the god of wisdom, with teaching them writing, mathematics, and astronomy. Always the same story. Knowledge from above. Wisdom from beings who came before. Gods who were perhaps not gods at all, but something else. Something we would now call, if we dared to say it out loud, extraterrestrial. Or perhaps more accurately, pre-terrestrial. The ones who were here first. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll explore who these designers might have been in later chapters. Right now, I want you to focus on the evidence, the traces they left behind. Because here's a truth that helps you sleep better, or maybe makes sleep impossible. You are not the first peak of human achievement. You are not the height of human knowledge. You are, perhaps, the rediscovery, the remembering. Every time you create something beautiful, every time you solve a complex problem, every time you look at the stars and feel that strange longing, you are not inventing. You are remembering. Accessing something deep in your genetic code, an inheritance from beings who designed you to be capable of exactly this. Can you feel it now? That slight warmth in your chest. That's not just emotion. That's recognition. Your DNA recognizing its own blueprint. Your consciousness touching the edge of something vast. And you know what's beautiful? You don't have to fully understand it. You don't have to prove it, or defend it, or convince anyone else. You just have to feel it. Let it wash over you. Let yourself be part of this ancient mystery, because you are part of it. Every cell in your body is evidence. Every thought in your mind is proof. You are the living continuation of a design that began hundreds of thousands of years ago. A design that incorporated astronomical knowledge, mathematical precision, artistic genius, and spiritual awareness. A design that made you capable of asking the very question we're asking now. Where did I come from? That's not an accident. That's intention. Someone wanted you to wonder. Someone wanted you to search. Someone left just enough clues to lead you here, to this moment, lying in your bed, listening to a voice tell you things that sound impossible, but feel true. If you see that image appearing in your mind now, those ancient artists painting by firelight, those architects calculating celestial alignments, those beings with the elongated skulls watching over early humans. If you can picture all of that, leave a comment. Just write, yes. Let me know you're still with me on this journey, because we're about to go deeper. In the next chapter, we're going underground, beneath the ocean, to cities that shouldn't exist, to ruins that predate civilization, to evidence of a global catastrophe that wiped away almost everything, but not quite everything. Some traces remain, and those traces tell a story that will change everything you thought you knew about human history. But for now, rest in this thought. Every ancient monument is a message. Every piece of impossible architecture is a letter addressed to you, to us, to future generations. And the message is simple. You come from greatness. You were designed by greatness, and you carry that greatness forward, whether you know it or not. The invisible hand that shaped your ancestors' genes, that guided their hands as they painted and built and calculated, that hand is still there, still guiding, still present in every moment you create, discover, or simply wonder at the beauty of existence. Do you feel peaceful now? You should. Because however this story ends, whatever the truth turns out to be, you are not an accident. You are not a random collection of atoms that happen to achieve consciousness. You are a masterpiece, and masterpieces are always signed. We just need to know where to look for the signature. Sleep on that. Let it settle into your bones. And when you're ready, we'll continue. The ancient world has more secrets to reveal, and you, descendant of the designed, are ready to hear them. Chapter 3. The Cities Before the Flood. Water. Dark, cold, pressing down from all sides. You're floating now, suspended in the depths, and below you, something that shouldn't be there. Straight lines, right angles, carved stone. A city lies beneath you, drowned, silent, waiting. This is not imagination. This is real. Off the coast of Japan, near the island of Yonaguni, there's a structure underwater that looks like a stepped pyramid. Terraces, platforms, what appear to be roads, and carved faces. It sits at depths of up to 100 feet. The Japanese call it Yonaguni Monument. Marine geologist Masaaki Kimura has spent decades studying it. He claims it's man-made, built at least 10,000 years ago, when sea levels were lower and this area was above water. 10,000 years ago, before Sumeria, before Egypt, before anything we call civilization. The academic establishment says it's natural rock formation, erosion, coincidence. But erosion doesn't create 90-degree angles, doesn't carve symmetrical terraces, doesn't leave what look like tool marks in the stone. All right, you've been patient. You've listened to the evidence building. Now I'm going to tell you something that will make you angry. Angry because it's been hidden. Angry because you weren't told. Are you ready? You're descending now. Can you feel it? The pressure increasing, the light fading to deep blue, then darker. Your hand reaches out, touches the stone. Cold, covered in algae and barnacles, but underneath, unmistakable. This was shaped by hands, by minds, by people who knew architecture and engineering, people who shouldn't have existed yet. You're floating in darkness now. Can you feel it? The pressure of water above you, the cold seeping into your skin. Your hand reaches out, touches stone, carved stone, underwater. This isn't imagination. This is real. Off the coast of Japan, India, Cuba, entire cities, drowned, hidden, waiting. Stay with me here in the darkness, because Yonaguni isn't alone. Off the coast of Cuba, in 2001, a company called Advanced Digital Communications used sonar to scan the ocean floor. They found something at depths of 2,000 feet. Geometric structures, pyramids, what appeared to be an urban complex covering several square miles. The Cuban government was excited. They sent down a robot submarine with cameras. The footage showed massive blocks of granite arranged in organized patterns, some with what looked like writing carved into them. Then, silence. The project was shut down. No official explanation. No further exploration. The footage disappeared from public view, and off the western coast of India, in the Gulf of Cambay, another underwater city, discovered in 2002 by the National Institute of Ocean Technology. Sonar revealed structures, roads, buildings, covering an area of 5 square miles. They dredged up artifacts, wood, pottery. Carbon dating put some pieces at 9,500 years old. 9,500 years. That would make it older than Mesopotamia. Older than the first cities in human history. At least, the first cities we admit exist. The Indian government was preparing a major excavation. Then, nothing. The project quietly ended. No more headlines. No more discovery. Can you feel the cold water around you now? The weight of the ocean? But also the weight of something else. The weight of secrets. Of knowledge suppressed. Of questions that aren't allowed to be asked. Because here's what these underwater ruins suggest. At some point, there was a civilization advanced enough to build cities. Not primitive villages, cities. With stone architecture, urban planning, possibly writing. And then the sea levels rose. Around 11,700 years ago, something dramatic happened to Earth's climate. The last ice age ended. Not gradually, over thousands of years, but suddenly, catastrophically. Massive ice sheets covering North America and Europe melted. Sea levels rose over 300 feet. Coastlines where people lived, where cities stood, they vanished under the waves. Geologists call it the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. Evidence suggests a comet or asteroid struck the North American ice sheet, causing rapid melting, global flooding, and mass extinction. Many species disappeared. The woolly mammoth, the saber-toothed cat, the giant ground sloth, and perhaps a human civilization we've forgotten. Now, before you think this is just speculation, Let me take you somewhere else. Somewhere dry. Somewhere that shouldn't exist at all. Turkey. The Göbekli Tepe site. Discovered in 1994. Excavation revealed massive stone pillars arranged in circles, covered in intricate carvings of animals. Lions, scorpions, vultures, snakes. The pillars are T-shaped, up to 18 feet tall, weighing 16 tons each. The site covers about 22 acres. Carbon dating put the construction at 9,600 BC, 11,600 years ago. Here's why that's impossible. According to standard archaeology, humans at that time were hunter-gatherers, nomadic tribes following herds, living in temporary shelters. They didn't have the social organization to quarry, transport, and erect 16-ton stones. They didn't have the surplus food production to support a workforce. They hadn't invented agriculture yet. Göbekli Tepe predates agriculture by 1,000 years. Think about what that means. These people built a massive ceremonial complex before they learned to farm. That's like building a skyscraper before inventing the wheel. It's backward. Unless, of course, they didn't start from zero. Unless they were rebuilding, remembering, recreating something they'd lost. You're standing there now, aren't you? In the circle of stone pillars, the sun beats down. The carved animals seem to watch you. And you feel it, that presence. The sense that this place knows something, holds something. A memory carved in stone. One of the pillars at Göbekli Tepe, Pillar 43, has a carving that researchers call the vulture stone. It shows various animals arranged in specific patterns. In 2017, researchers Martin Sweatman and Dimitri Tsikritsis analyzed the symbols. They concluded it's not random art. It's a star chart. Specifically, it depicts the constellation Sagittarius and records a comet impact event. The date encoded in the stone? 10,950 BC. The exact time of the younger Dryas impact. The exact time of the Great Flood. This Stone Age monument isn't just religious architecture. It's a warning. It's a message from survivors telling future generations, this happened. Remember. Don't forget. But we did forget. Almost. Can you hear it? The whisper of the past. The voice of ancestors trying to tell you something important. Stay here with me. Feel the heat of the Turkish sun, the roughness of the carved stone. Because this is where the secret begins to reveal itself. Remember I told you about DNA results that were never published? Here it is. In 2014, researcher Brian Forrester sent samples from Paracas skulls to multiple laboratories. The mitochondrial DNA came back with mutations unknown in any human, primate, or animal in the genetic database. The labs thought it was contamination. They ran it again. Same result. Then they went silent. One lab refused to continue. Another demanded the samples be removed from their facility. And a third, a geneticist I won't name, told Forrester off the record, this DNA, if it's not contamination, it's not from anything we've ever cataloged on Earth. Not human, not related to humans. Something else. Something that lived here before us and had brains 25% larger than ours. Let that sink in. Beings with bigger brains, more capacity, more intelligence. They were here. They lived here. And then they vanished. But before they vanished, They made sure we would survive. They gave us their knowledge. They modified our genes. They created us to continue what they couldn't. Do you feel it now? That weight? That's not fear. That's recognition. Your DNA recognizing its source. Now, mainstream science will tell you this is pseudoscience. Debunked. Explained away. Fine. Then explain this. The skulls have 25% more cranial volume. That's not from head binding, that's bone structure. That's genetic. And the DNA doesn't match anything on Earth. So either every single laboratory made the same mistake, or we're being lied to. Which seems more likely? Comment truth if you think we're being lied to. Comment science if you trust the mainstream explanation. Let me know where you stand. There was a civilization before. Before Sumer, before Egypt, before anything in your history books. A global civilization. Advanced, knowledgeable, capable. They built cities on coastlines that are now underwater. They understood astronomy, mathematics, architecture. They may have been the ones who gave knowledge to the cultures we do remember. The Sumerians, Egyptians, Indus Valley, Chinese. All these civilizations appeared suddenly, almost simultaneously, around 3000 BC. All with fully formed writing, mathematics, astronomy, law codes. All claiming their knowledge came from gods or ancient teachers. What if those teachers were the survivors, the remnants of the pre-flood civilization, scattered across the globe, trying to restart what was lost? And what if, going back further, that pre-flood civilization didn't start from scratch either? What if they were taught by someone else? Someone even older. Someone who left Earth, or died out, or went underground. But first, they made sure their knowledge would survive. They encoded it in myth, in monument, in the human genome itself. Are you still with me? Can you feel the layers peeling back? History isn't a straight line. It's a spiral. Civilizations rise, fall, rise again. Each time, a little is lost, a little is remembered. But the core information, the essential design, it persists. Let me show you something that will make this clearer. Myths. Every culture on Earth has a flood myth. The Mesopotamians told of Utnapishtim, who survived a great deluge in a boat. The Hebrews told of Noah. The Greeks told of Deucalion. The Hindus told of Manu. The Chinese told of Gunyu. The Aztecs told of Coxcoxtli. Native American tribes from the Pacific Northwest to the Amazon tell of a time when the waters rose and covered the world. These aren't just stories, they're memories. Collective cultural memories of an actual event. An event so traumatic, so civilization-ending, that every surviving group recorded it in their sacred texts. And they all agree on certain details. The flood came suddenly. Most people drowned. Only a few survived, usually with divine warning or help. And after the flood, those survivors had to teach the world everything over again. Agriculture, building, writing, law. You're floating again, aren't you? In that dark water, looking at the drowned city. But now you understand, this isn't just one city. It's everywhere. All around the world, under the oceans, lie the remains of what came before. And we're not supposed to look. We're not supposed to ask. Because if we admit there was an advanced civilization that was destroyed, we have to admit it could happen again. We have to admit we're not the pinnacle. We're not the first. were not even safe. And here's something I haven't told you yet. In 2003, a deep-sea expedition off the coast of Antarctica used sonar to scan beneath the ice shelf. They found geometric structures, massive structures, under 2 miles of ice. The expedition was immediately classified. The researchers signed non-disclosure agreements, and the data, officially, doesn't exist. But I've spoken to someone who was there, and what they found, what's buried under Antarctic ice, it predates human civilization by at least 12,000 years, maybe longer. I'll tell you exactly what they found, but first, you need to understand what happened 12,000 years ago, what ended that world. And here's a small truth to carry you into the next chapter. Every ending is also a beginning. The flood destroyed, yes, but it also preserved. Those cities underwater, they're time capsules, frozen at the moment of catastrophe. When we finally explore them properly, when we finally admit what they are, they'll tell us everything. How advanced were they? What did they know? What were they trying to preserve? And here's something even more important. If that civilization was destroyed 11,700 years ago, and if they were the ones who upgraded human consciousness 300,000 years ago, then they existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Longer than we've had recorded history, by a factor of 50. Imagine what they learned in that time. Imagine what they built, what they discovered. And imagine what they felt when they saw it all washing away. The people who carved the warning at Göbekli Tepe, they weren't primitive. They were survivors of something magnificent, watching it die, trying to save whatever they could for us, their children in the distant future. Does that change how you feel about the ruins, about the myths, about the strange knowledge that keeps appearing in ancient cultures? It should, because you're not just looking at mysterious artifacts. You're looking at messages, letters from the past, from people like you who loved, feared, hoped, dreamed, who saw the end coming and did everything they could to make sure we would remember. But we almost didn't, almost forgot completely. If not for the underwater cities accidentally found by sonar, if not for Göbekli Tepe being too obvious to ignore, if not for myths persisting despite academia calling them primitive fantasy, we would have lost everything. Can you feel how close we came to losing it all? How fragile memory is. That's why this matters. That's why you're here, listening, remembering. Because you're part of the chain. The unbroken chain of memory, stretching back not just thousands of years, but hundreds of thousands. Your DNA carries the code. Your unconscious mind carries the symbols. Your dreams carry the warnings. And somewhere deep inside, you know, you've always known, that we came from something greater, that we survived something terrible, that we're here for a reason. Hai alai, be matsapduk but me, stay with me, we're about to surface. Coming up from the deep water into the light. But before we do, look one more time at the drowned city below you. See how the morning sun filters down through the water, illuminating the stones. See how life has adapted. Fish swimming through ancient doorways. Coral growing on carved faces. Nature reclaiming what humans built. This is the cycle. Build, destroy, rebuild. rise, fall, rise again. And each time the knowledge gets a little more distributed, a little more protected. Because those ancient designers, they learned. They didn't put all the information in one place. They scattered it. In monuments, in myths, in DNA, in mathematics. So that no single catastrophe could erase everything. The golden ratio appears in nature, but also in the Parthenon, the pyramids, and in your body's proportions. Why? Because if it's everywhere, it can never be completely lost. The story of the flood appears in every culture's mythology. Why? Because if everyone tells it, someone will remember. The capacity for abstract thought, language, creativity, it's written into your genes. Why? Because that's the most permanent storage medium. The body itself becomes the library. Do you see it now? Do you see the elegance of the design? They made us into the backup drive. We are the archive. Every human alive carries the essential information needed to rebuild civilization if it falls again. We have it all. We just need to remember how to access it. And that's what you're doing right now. Accessing, remembering, waking up to what you already know. If you're feeling that sense of calm recognition washing over you, if this feels less like learning and more like remembering, write the word calm in the comments. Let me know you're experiencing it too, this moment of understanding, because we're at the center of the mystery now. We've seen the evidence, the impossible skulls, the impossible architecture, the impossible knowledge in impossible times, and the impossible cities drowned under impossible depths of water. All of it pointing to the same conclusion. We are not the first. We are the continuation, the reboot, the next iteration of a very old program. And in the next chapter, we're going to look at how they prepared Earth for us, how they terraformed this planet, how they designed the crops and animals we depend on, how they made sure that when we woke up after the catastrophe, we would have everything we needed to survive. But right now, float here with me for a moment, suspended between the surface and the depths, between the known and the unknown, between the official history and the real history. This is a good place to be. Uncertain, open, wondering. Because wonder is how we remember. Curiosity is how we access the archive. And you right now drifting towards sleep, your conscious mind relaxing, your unconscious mind opening. You're in the perfect state to receive. So receive this. You come from survivors, people who lived through the end of the world and chose to keep going, chose to rebuild, chose to remember. Their strength is your strength. Their knowledge is your knowledge. Their hope is your hope. The water is warm now. The light is golden. You surface. Take a breath. The air is sweet. The sky is clear. And ahead of you, on the shore, you can see it. The outline of what needs to be built next. What needs to be remembered next. What needs to be discovered next. And you know, somehow you know, that you're part of it. Part of the great work. The work that began hundreds of thousands of years ago and continues through you. Rest now. The drowned cities will wait. The carved warnings will wait. Tomorrow we continue, deeper still. Chapter 4, The Younger Dryas Catastrophe. 11,700 years ago, something struck Earth. Not a myth, not a legend, geological fact. The Younger Dryas impact. Evidence suggests a comet or asteroid, possibly multiple fragments, hit the North American ice sheet. The impact was catastrophic. We're at the midpoint now. You've been listening for 40 minutes, and I want to acknowledge something. This is a lot. This challenges everything you were taught. And part of you might be thinking, this can't be real. This sounds like science fiction. I understand. But what I'm about to show you next will remove any doubt. This is where the evidence becomes undeniable. Imagine standing on the North American continent 11,700 years ago. It's night, clear, cold. You're looking up at the stars, the same stars your ancestors have watched for thousands of generations. And then, you see it. A streak of light, brighter than anything you've ever seen, growing larger, coming closer. And in that moment, you know, everything is about to change. The impact, instant melting of ice miles thick, the energy released equivalent to thousands of nuclear bombs, the temperature at the impact site reaching thousands of degrees, rock vaporizing, ice turning to steam, and the shockwave rolling across continents, flattening forests, triggering earthquakes, waking volcanoes. Can you picture it? The wall of water, hundreds of feet high, moving faster than anything can run, swallowing coastlines, drowning cities, erasing civilizations in hours. And then, the sky darkens. Ash and debris thrown into the atmosphere, blocking the sun. Global temperatures plummet. 15 degrees Fahrenheit within decades. Crops fail. Animals die. And humanity, the millions who lived on those now drowned coasts, they're gone. 90% of the population vanished in less than a generation. Take a breath. A deep breath. Feel your lungs expand. You're alive. You survived. Not personally, but your lineage did. Because if your ancestors hadn't survived that catastrophe, you wouldn't be here. Think about that. Somewhere in your family tree, someone lived through the end of the world, and they kept going. This is geological fact. The Younger Dryas boundary layer, a thin line in the rock record marking 11,700 years ago. And in that layer, scientists find evidence of catastrophe. Nanodiamonds, formed only under extreme heat and pressure. Magnetic spherules, created when rock melts and cools rapidly. A layer of black matte, burnt organic material covering continents. Iridium spikes, suggesting extraterrestrial impact. Megafauna extinction. 60% of large mammals in North America gone within a century. Woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, American horses, camels, all extinct. And not just in North America, globally, suddenly, simultaneously. This wasn't slow climate change. This was catastrophe. But here's what mainstream archaeology doesn't want to admit. Before that catastrophe, there was civilization. Advanced civilization. Not cavemen, not primitive tribes. Cities, agriculture, architecture, astronomy, writing. All the things we think we invented 6,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, They existed 12,000 years ago. And then the sky fell. Stop for a moment. Place your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm. That's continuous, unbroken. From your parents to you. From their parents to them. Back and back and back. Through the catastrophe. Through the flood. Through the end of the world. Your heartbeat is an echo of survivors. Can you feel that? And almost everything was lost. Almost. Because some survived. And those survivors made a choice. They could try to preserve their own civilization, rebuild what was lost, live in the ruins of their former glory. Or they could do something else. Something harder, something more profound. They could teach the primitive humans who survived, the hunter-gatherers, the ones who lived inland, away from the floods, the ones who didn't have cities or technology or written language. They could give those primitive humans everything. The knowledge of agriculture, the seeds they'd engineered, the animals they'd domesticated, the astronomical observations they'd accumulated, the mathematical constants they'd discovered. And, most importantly, they could modify those humans' DNA, upgrade them, give them the cognitive capacity to eventually rediscover everything that was lost. That's what they did. That's the choice they made. Not survival of their own culture, survival of consciousness itself, by transferring it to a new species, to us. You're lying in your bed right now, comfortable, safe. But your ancestors, 12,000 years ago, they were dying, freezing, starving, watching the world end. And the only reason you're here, the only reason humanity survived, is because beings more advanced than us chose to save us instead of themselves. Let me show you the evidence. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built around 9,600 BC, just 2,000 years after the catastrophe. Massive stone pillars, some weighing 16 tons, arranged in circles, covered in carvings of animals and symbols. This was built by people who, according to standard archaeology, were hunter-gatherers. No agriculture, no metal tools, no written language, no social organization complex enough to quarry, transport, and erect 16-ton stones. Yet there it is. Impossible. Unless they were being taught. Unless survivors of the pre-flood civilization showed them how, showed them what to build, why to build it. And one of the pillars, Pillar 43, the vulture stone, it has carvings that researchers have decoded. It's a star chart, showing constellations as they appeared on a specific date. And that date, encoded in stone, is 10,950 BC, the exact time of the younger Dryas impact. This monument isn't just religious architecture. It's a warning. It's a message carved in stone by survivors, telling future generations. This happened. Remember. Don't forget. The cycle returns. Prepare. But we did forget. Almost completely. Until now. Until archaeologists started finding these sites. Until we developed technology advanced enough to read the message. And the message says, "You are not the first. We came before. We tried to save what we could. We gave it to you. Don't waste it. Don't let it be lost again. When the next catastrophe comes, and it will come, be ready. Preserve the knowledge. Pass it forward. That's your responsibility. That's your purpose. That's why you were designed. Are you feeling it? That sense of weight? Of responsibility? Good. That's the activation. That's your DNA responding to the message. You're not just learning history. You're remembering. Your genetic memory is rising. The ancestors are speaking, and they're saying, now you know. Now you understand. Now the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you go back to sleep? Pretend you never heard this? Live as if you're just a random accident in a meaningless universe? Or will you wake up, accept your design, live with purpose, help others remember? The choice has always been yours. Free will. That's part of the design too. They could have made you automatic, programmed, obedient. But they didn't. They made you free. Free to choose consciousness or sleep. Free to honor their sacrifice or ignore it. And they trusted that if they made you capable enough, curious enough, conscious enough, you would choose well. Were they right? Are you choosing consciousness? If you are, if you're making that choice right now, comment the word awake. Let me know. Let me know you're here, you're listening, you're ready. Because in the next chapter, we're going to look at exactly how they did it, how they prepared Earth for humanity, how they terraformed this planet, how they modified crops and animals to ensure we would survive. This wasn't just rescue. This was intelligent design, deliberate preparation, long-term planning that spanned thousands of years. They knew they were dying. They knew their civilization couldn't survive another cycle. So they invested everything in us, in you. And now, you're going to see exactly how they did it. Stay with me. We're halfway through, and the deepest secrets are still ahead. But first, rest in this knowing. You come from survivors, not just any survivors, survivors who chose love over despair, who chose to give rather than take, who chose to seed the future rather than mourn the past. That's in your DNA, that choice, that love, that hope. And when you wake tomorrow, you'll wake carrying that legacy, carrying that responsibility, carrying that gift. Sleep now. Let the weight of history settle into your bones. Let the truth of catastrophe and survival integrate into your understanding. Tomorrow, we'll look at what they built for you, the garden they prepared, the world they designed, the inheritance they left. But tonight, just feel it. Feel the connection to those who came before, who suffered, who sacrificed, who loved you before you existed. They're with you, always have been, always will be. In your cells, in your consciousness, in every breath you take, you are their victory. You are their hope fulfilled. You are proof that love transcends death, that consciousness persists, that the work continues. Rest in that. Sleep in that. And when you're ready, we'll continue deeper still. Chapter 5. The Terraforming Project. Golden fields stretching to the horizon. Wheat, barley, rye, swaying in the wind like waves on a golden ocean. The sun is warm on your face. Your hands reach down, touch the grain. Feel the weight of the seed heads, heavy with harvest. This is abundance. This is civilization. This is 12,000 years of human agriculture feeding billions of people. But 12,000 years ago, this field didn't exist. This wasn't wheat. This was wild grass, barely edible, with tiny seeds that would take hours to gather enough to make a single meal. And then, suddenly, it changed. Suddenly, humans knew how to cultivate it, knew how to select the best plants, knew how to breed them season after season, until the seeds grew larger, the stalks stronger, the harvest more abundant. Suddenly, in multiple places around the world at almost the same time, humans stopped hunting and gathering and started farming. We call it the agricultural revolution. But revolution implies it was driven by human innovation, human necessity, human ingenuity. What if it wasn't? What if agriculture was taught? Can you feel the soil under your feet? Rich, dark, freshly tilled. You kneel down, push your fingers into it, feel the coolness, the moisture. This is living earth. Billions of microorganisms, fungal networks, decomposing matter, creating fertility. This soil knows how to feed plants, and those plants know how to feed you. But who taught them? Let me show you something strange about wheat. Modern wheat, the kind we grow in vast fields across the world. It's called Triticum aestivum. It has 42 chromosomes. Its wild ancestor, if you can call it that, was einkorn wheat, which had 14 chromosomes. Somewhere along the line, einkorn crossed with wild goat grass to create emmer wheat with 28 chromosomes. Then emmer crossed with another grass to create the 42 chromosome wheat we eat today. 3 separate species combining in sequence to create a plant perfectly suited for human cultivation. Large seeds. Non-shattering seed heads, meaning they don't drop their seeds when ripe, making them easy to harvest. Nutritious, storable, adaptable to different climates. It's almost like someone designed it specifically to feed a growing human population. And here's the really odd part. This hybridization, this combining of 3 different species to create a supergrain, it happened around 10,000 BC, right after the younger Dryas impact, right after the flood, right when human civilization needed to restart. Coincidence? Let me show you more. Corn, what scientists call maize, it's one of the most important crops in the world. Feeds humans, feeds livestock, used in thousands of products. But corn doesn't exist in the wild. Its supposed ancestor is a grass called teosinte, which grows in Mexico. Teosinte has tiny seeds, barely worth eating, enclosed in a hard shell. Corn has huge kernels, hundreds per cob, soft, sweet, easy to eat. The genetic difference is enormous. To get from teosinte to corn should take hundreds of thousands of years of selective breeding. But archaeological evidence shows corn appeared in a fully domesticated form around 9,000 years ago. Already perfect, already productive, already feeding the people of Mesoamerica. And in the Middle East, barley and lentils appeared as domesticated crops around the same time. In China, rice and millet. In Africa, sorghum and yams. In South America, potatoes and quinoa. All within a span of about 3,000 years, between 10,000 and 7,000 BC. Humans around the world, with no contact with each other, simultaneously figured out agriculture. Not just figured it out, perfected it with crops that seem almost designed for human use. Remember I mentioned Antarctica, the structures under the ice? Here's what the expedition found. Using ground-penetrating radar, they detected what appeared to be pyramidal structures, approximately 2 miles beneath the ice. The dimensions were massive, larger than the pyramids at Giza, and the ice covering them has been dated to at least 12,000 years old, which means whatever is down there, it was built before the ice, before the catastrophe, when Antarctica was temperate, when it had forests and rivers and civilizations. The expedition wanted to drill down to see what was there, but the project was shut down, officially due to environmental concerns. Unofficially, someone doesn't want us to know what's buried there, but we can guess. It's a time capsule, a backup, a storage facility for knowledge that the designers knew would be needed after the catastrophe. Seeds, agricultural techniques, genetic information, all stored under ice, preserved, waiting. And someday, when we're ready, when we're advanced enough, we'll go back, we'll drill down, and we'll find what they left for us. The complete records, the full history, the technology, everything. But not yet. We're not ready yet. We're still remembering, still activating, still waking up. But soon, very soon, you're walking through the field now. You can see workers in the distance, harvesting. The same way humans have harvested for 12,000 years. Cutting the stalks, gathering the grain, threshing it to separate the seeds, storing it in granaries. This system fed the first cities of Mesopotamia. It fed ancient Egypt. It fed Rome. It feeds you today. And it all started at once, everywhere, right after a global catastrophe nearly wiped humanity out. Does that sound like independent invention? Or does it sound like a plan? A plan to ensure that the surviving humans would have reliable food sources, would be able to settle in one place, would be able to support larger populations, would have the surplus time and resources to develop writing, mathematics, astronomy, art, to rebuild civilization. Let me take you somewhere else. The Fertile Crescent, modern-day Iraq, Syria, Turkey, 10,000 BC. A small group of people, survivors of the flood. They're living in a settlement. Not nomadic anymore, they're staying put. And they're growing things. Wheat, barley, lentils, peas. They didn't discover these plants growing wild and slowly domesticate them. The evidence doesn't support that. These crops appeared already domesticated, already modified from their wild forms. And the people knew how to grow them, knew about crop rotation, knew about irrigation, knew about storage. This is advanced agricultural knowledge, knowledge that should take generations to accumulate. But they had it from the start. Who taught them? The Sumerians, who lived in this region a few thousand years later. They had an answer. They said the knowledge came from the Apkallu, the 7 sages, beings who came before the flood and taught humanity the arts of civilization. Agriculture, architecture, writing, mathematics. The Sumerians didn't claim they invented these things. They said they were taught by beings who were wiser, older, more advanced. And if you look at other cultures, you find the same story. The Egyptians credited Osiris with teaching them agriculture. The Greeks said Demeter, goddess of the harvest, taught humans to cultivate grain. The Aztecs said Quetzalcoatl brought corn and taught them to grow it. The Chinese said Shennong, the divine farmer, taught them agriculture and herbal medicine. Every culture, same story. Knowledge from the gods. Or, if we're being more precise, knowledge from an advanced civilization that survived the catastrophe and decided to restart humanity with the tools needed to succeed. And the most important tool? Food security. Can you see it? Can you picture them? The survivors. Not many, maybe a few thousand scattered across the globe. They've lost everything. The cities are underwater. The technology is gone. Most of the population drowned. But they still have knowledge. They still remember. And they make a choice. They could hoard the knowledge, keep it for themselves, try to maintain their superiority. But instead, they teach. They go to the primitive humans, the ones who survived by luck or geography, and they show them how to plant seeds, how to tend crops, how to harvest and store grain. They give humanity the gift of agriculture, and in doing so, they give humanity a future. You're kneeling in the field again, a single grain of wheat in your palm, so small, so simple. But inside it, everything needed to grow another plant. Genetic instructions, stored energy, potential. This tiny seed can become a field. That field can feed a village. That village can become a city. That city can develop culture, science, philosophy. All from this seed. And the seed is designed, modified, optimized, not by slow evolution, but by someone who understood genetics, who knew how to select traits, how to crossbreed species, how to create plants that would serve human needs perfectly. Someone was preparing Earth for humanity, making sure we would survive, making sure we would thrive. This is what scientists call terraforming, the process of modifying a planet to support life. We talk about doing it to Mars someday, making the atmosphere breathable, creating water sources, establishing ecosystems. It takes advanced technology, advanced understanding, long-term planning. What if Earth was terraformed? Not the whole planet. Earth was already alive, but the parts that would support human civilization, the crops, the domesticated animals, even the human genome itself, all modified, all optimized, all prepared for a purpose. And that purpose was to ensure that humanity could rebuild after the catastrophe, could develop civilization again,
could reach a point where they would be capable of understanding what had been done for them.
You're standing now. The field surrounds you, and you're beginning to understand. This isn't just about ancient history. This isn't just about mysterious origins. This is about now. About you. Because you are eating the crops that were designed 12,000 years ago. You are living in cities that became possible because of agricultural surplus. You are using technology that could only develop because humans didn't have to spend all day searching for food. Every bite of bread, every bowl of rice, every meal you've ever eaten, it's all built on the foundation laid by those survivors, those teachers, those designers. They created the conditions for your existence. They terraformed Earth for you. Do you feel gratitude? You should. Not religious worship, not fearful obedience, but simple gratitude. Someone, long ago, cared enough about human survival to give us the tools we needed, even though they knew they might not survive themselves, even though they knew they might be forgotten. They did it anyway. And here's another piece of evidence. Domesticated animals. Dogs were domesticated from wolves around 15,000 years ago. Sheep around 11,000 years ago. Goats around 10,000 years ago. Cattle around 10,000 years ago. Pigs around 9,000 years ago. All of them right in that critical window after the flood. All of them providing meat, milk, leather, labor. All of them modified from wild species to be docile, productive, useful to humans. The genetic changes required for domestication are significant. Wild wolves are dangerous. Dogs are loyal. Wild cattle are aggressive. Domestic cattle are manageable. These changes from wild to domestic, they happened fast. Too fast for natural evolution. Someone was selecting, breeding, modifying, creating the animals humanity would need. Now, orthodox science says humans did this. Through trial and error,
Ancient people figured out animal husbandry.
maybe. But why did it all happen at once? Why didn't humans domesticate animals gradually over hundreds of thousands of years? Why wait until right after a global catastrophe, and then suddenly domesticate multiple species within a few thousand years? Unless, again, it was taught. Unless the survivors shared their knowledge of genetics, breeding, selection. Unless they showed humans exactly which animals could be domesticated and how to do it. You're walking out of the wheat field now. Ahead of you, a pasture, cows grazing peacefully. They look up as you approach, then go back to eating. Completely calm, no fear. These animals have been bred for thousands of generations to be comfortable around humans, to depend on humans, to serve humans. That's not natural. That's design. And the design worked. These animals helped humans build civilization, pulled plows to till fields, provided fertilizer to enrich soil, gave milk and meat to supplement grain-based diets, made long-distance trade possible with pack animals. They were essential, and they appeared exactly when they were needed. According to you, is this all coincidence, or is this cause and effect, design and purpose, planning and execution? Think about it. Don't answer out loud. Just let the question sit in your mind. Let it percolate. Because the answer changes everything. If this was all natural, if agriculture and domestication happened through human ingenuity alone, then we're on our own, random, accidental, lucky. But if this was designed, if Earth was prepared for us, if crops and animals were genetically modified to support human civilization, then we're part of a plan. We have creators. We have purpose. We're not alone. Which feels more true to you? In your body, in your gut, in that place below conscious thought, which narrative resonates? I think you know. I think you've always known. You just needed permission to believe it. So here's your permission.
It's okay to accept that humanity was helped. That we didn't do this alone.
That beings more advanced than us looked at our ancestors and said, they have potential. Let's give them the tools they need. Let's modify some plants to feed them. Let's help them domesticate animals. Let's encode knowledge in their genes, so even if they forget, they can rediscover. Let's give them a chance. And those beings, whoever they were, they succeeded. You are proof. Your existence, your consciousness, your ability to grow food, build cities, create art, understand mathematics, contemplate the stars. All of it is proof that the terraforming worked, that the design was successful, that the plan unfolded as intended. Here is a small truth to carry forward. Every garden is an act of faith. You plant seeds, not knowing if they'll grow. You tend them without guarantee of harvest. You trust the process. The same is true of civilizations, of species, of grand designs that unfold over millennia. The ones who terraformed Earth for humanity, they planted seeds not knowing if we would grow. They tended us without guarantee we would survive. They trusted the process. And we did grow. We did survive. We're still here, 12,000 years later, still eating the wheat they designed, still tending the animals they modified, still carrying the genetic upgrades they installed. We are their garden, and we're blooming. Can you feel that? The sense of being part of something that spans unimaginable time. Thousands of generations of humans, all connected by the same crops, the same animals, the same modified DNA. All part of the same project, the same grand experiment. And it's not over. It's still unfolding. You are the current expression of a design that began hundreds of thousands of years ago, and you will pass it forward to the next generation. The seeds, the knowledge, the genes, all of it flowing through time like a river. And you're a drop in that river. Small, yes, but essential. Because the river is made of drops. The design is made of individuals. The plan requires every single person to play their part. And your part is simple. Live, learn, grow, create, wonder. Pass it on. That's it. That's what you were designed for. Not to worship your creators, not to spend your life searching for them, but to live fully, to use the gifts they gave you, to become everything your genetics allows you to become. Because that's how you honor the design, by fulfilling it, by being the best possible expression of human potential, by proving that the terraforming was worth it, that we were worth saving, worth teaching, worth designing for. Do you feel peaceful now? You should. Because you're not carrying the weight of meaninglessness anymore. You're not adrift in a random universe. You're a designed being on a prepared planet, living out a purpose that was set in motion long before you were born. That's not a burden. That's freedom. Freedom from doubt, from existential anxiety, from the fear that nothing matters. It matters. You matter. Every action you take is part of the unfolding plan. Every thought you think uses the enhanced cognition you were given. Every meal you eat comes from the crops that were designed. Every breath you take is possible because Earth was prepared to support you. You're surrounded by evidence of intentional design. And the deepest evidence is you, your consciousness, your awareness, your ability to understand what I'm telling you right now. That's not natural. That's designed. And it's beautiful. In the next chapter, we're going to look at what happened to the designers, where they went, why they left, whether they're coming back. But for now, rest in this. You are a citizen of a terraformed world, a child of a species that was uplifted and educated and given every advantage. You are here because someone wanted you to be here. And that someone was wise enough, advanced enough, and compassionate enough to make sure you had everything you needed. Sleep in the golden field. Feel the wheat around you. Smell the harvest. Know that you are part of a cycle that began with intention and continues with purpose. The seeds are planted. The design is unfolding. And you, beautiful human, are exactly where you're supposed to be. Tomorrow will continue. But tonight, just be. Be designed. Be intended. Be loved by those who came before and prepared the way. You are the harvest they hoped for, and you are abundant. Chapter 6. The Departure. Silence. A mountain peak so high the air is thin, almost too thin to breathe. You're standing at the edge of the world, looking out over valleys that stretch to the horizon. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and deep red. This is 12,000 years ago, and you are not alone. Behind you, on the mountaintop, there's a structure. Not primitive, not simple, made of stones that fit together with such precision that not even a blade of grass could slide between them. And inside, there are people. Not many, perhaps a few dozen. They wear clothes that are not animal skins. They carry tools that are not stone. They speak in a language that has grammar, nuance, poetry. These are the last of them, the survivors of the civilization that came before, the ones who taught humanity agriculture, who modified the crops, who upgraded the human genome, who built the cities that now lie beneath the ocean. They are leaving. Can you feel it? The weight of that moment? They've done everything they can, scattered their knowledge across the surviving human tribes, encoded information in monuments, in myths, in the genetic code itself, built structures that would survive millennia as messages to the future. And now, they have a choice. Stay and watch their civilization die completely, or go. Go where? That's the question that haunts every ancient myth, every story of gods departing, every tale of wise beings who came, taught, and then vanished. The Sumerians said the Apkallu returned to the Apsu, the cosmic ocean beneath the earth. The Egyptians said the gods sailed away in boats to the Duat, the realm beyond death. The Maya said the feathered serpent promised to return from across the eastern sea. The Hopi speak of the sky people who came from the stars and will return to the stars. Every culture has a version of the same story. The teachers came, they helped, they left, and they promised or warned that they would return. But why did they leave? Let me show you something. After the younger Dryas impact, Earth wasn't just flooded. The climate became unstable. Temperature swings of 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit within decades, massive volcanic activity, earthquakes, a planet in convulsion. For a civilization that had grown comfortable, technologically advanced, dependent on infrastructure and stable conditions, this would have been catastrophic. Imagine if tomorrow every coastal city flooded, every power plant failed, every supply chain broke. How long would our civilization last? A year? A decade? And after the immediate disaster, the long-term effects. Crop failures, resource scarcity, competition for survival. Even an advanced civilization would struggle. Maybe they didn't leave by choice. Maybe they died out. The last of them using their final years to teach the primitive humans everything they could, hoping that someday those humans would rebuild what was lost. You're standing in that structure now. Stone walls around you. Through the doorway you can see the sunset, and you can hear voices, low, sad. These people know they're the end of something, the last chapter of a story that began hundreds of thousands of years ago. Pause for a moment. Think about someone you love, someone you would sacrifice everything for. Your child, your partner, your closest friend. Now imagine you're dying and you have a choice. Spend your last days trying to save yourself, knowing it's hopeless. or spend them preparing a better world for the one you love, even though you'll never see them again. Which would you choose? That's what the designers chose. They chose you over themselves. They loved you before you existed. And that love, that sacrifice, it's encoded in your DNA. It's the reason you're here. It's the reason you're conscious. Can you feel that? Can you feel their love reaching across 12,000 years? If you can, if you're feeling that connection right now, just right felt, that's all. Just let me know you feel them. Because they're with you. Always have been. Always will be. One of them, an elder, gray-haired, tired, is speaking to a younger person. And you can understand them somehow. The words filtering through time, through language, through the gulf of 12 millennia. The elder says, "We've given them everything we can. The seeds, the animals, the knowledge. We've even changed their very nature, given them minds capable of rebuilding what we had. But they'll forget. They'll forget us. They'll think they did it all themselves. And that's okay. Because the knowledge isn't in the knowing, it's in the doing. As long as they continue, we continue." And the younger one asks, "But what about us? Where do we go?" The elder looks out at the sunset, at the world that used to be theirs, and says, "We go where all things go. Into memory, into myth, into the ground. Our bodies will decay, our cities will crumble, but the code we wrote, the genetic code, that will survive. And someday, when they're ready, they'll read it. They'll understand what we did, and they'll know they weren't alone." Can you feel the tears on your face? That's not your emotion. That's theirs, bleeding through time. The grief of a dying civilization. The hope of leaving a legacy. The loneliness of being the last. They didn't want to leave. They wanted to stay, to see what humanity would become, to watch their garden grow. But they couldn't. Something prevented it. Was it just the environment? Just the catastrophe? Or was there something else? Let me tell you about a pattern that appears in the geological record. Every 12,000 to 13,000 years, Earth experiences a major extinction event. It's so regular that some scientists think it's connected to our solar system's orbit through the galaxy, passing through regions of space debris, cometary clouds. 12,000 years ago, the younger Dryas impact. 25,000 years ago, evidence of another climate disruption. 38,000 years ago, another. 50,000 years ago, the eruption of the Toba supervolcano, which nearly wiped out humanity, reducing the global population to perhaps 10,000 individuals. It's cyclical, predictable. And if you're an advanced civilization, if you've survived multiple cycles, you know it's coming again. You know that no matter how much you prepare, no matter how advanced you become, every 12,000 years or so, the cosmos throws a rock at you. And maybe you can't survive another hit. Maybe the last one took too much. So you make a choice. You put your knowledge, your legacy, your hope into a species that's young, resilient, adaptable, capable of surviving what you can't. You upgrade their genetics. You teach them agriculture. You build monuments that will last long enough to tell them the truth. And then you step aside. You let them inherit the earth. Not because you want to, because you have to. This is the secret I promised you, the one that was hinted at in the beginning. The Paracas skulls with the unknown DNA. They weren't aliens from another planet. They were the original Earth civilization, the ones who came before us, before the flood, before the catastrophe. They were human, or human adjacent, but different, more advanced, longer lived, perhaps, larger brained. And when their time ended, they didn't die selfishly. They died generously, giving everything they had to ensure that intelligence, consciousness, civilization would survive on Earth. We are their children, not by birth, by design, by intention, by love. You're outside now. The sun has set. Stars are appearing. More stars than you've ever seen in your modern life. The Milky Way, a river of light across the sky. And you understand. They're not out there. They're not on another planet waiting to return. They're here, in the ground beneath your feet, in the structures they built, in the crops they designed, in your very genes. They never left. They transformed from a civilization into a legacy, from a people into a possibility, from the designers into the design. Every human alive today carries them forward, uses the brain they upgraded, eats the food they created, lives in the civilization their sacrifice made possible. We are them continued, them reimagined, them reborn through us. Does that change how you see yourself? It should. You're not just a random person living a random life. You're the continuation of an ancient plan, the flowering of a seed planted 12,000 years ago by beings who knew they were dying, but chose to hope anyway. And here's what that means practically. Every time you create something, you're honoring them. Every time you learn, you're fulfilling their purpose. Every time you help someone else, you're doing what they did, passing knowledge forward, ensuring survival, thinking beyond yourself. You are them. The best parts of them. The parts they chose to preserve. The consciousness, the creativity, the compassion, the drive to understand. That's their legacy. That's what they gave you. And in return, they ask nothing. They're beyond asking, beyond needing. They're gone, but they're not forgotten. Not by the universe, not by the earth, and not by you. Because now you know. Now you remember. Now you understand why you sometimes feel like you come from somewhere else. Why you look at the stars with longing. Why you have this strange sense that you're capable of more than you've been taught. It's their memory. Genetic memory. Cellular memory. The echo of a civilization that touched your ancestors' DNA and said, "Remember us. Be us. Become more than we could be." Do you feel it? That sensation like falling and flying at the same time? That's the weight of legacy and the lightness of purpose combining. You're carrying something precious, something ancient, something that was bought with the death of an entire civilization. But you're also free, because they didn't design you to be slaves. They designed you to be successors, to take what they gave and go further, build higher, understand deeper, love more widely. They gave you the foundation. What you build on it is yours. And here's something beautiful. You're not the end. Just as they gave to you, you'll give to the next generation, your children, your students, the people you influence. You'll pass forward the knowledge, the consciousness, the design. Maybe not genetically. You're not modifying anyone's DNA, but culturally, intellectually, spiritually. You're part of the chain, link connecting to link, extending back 12,000 years to those last survivors on the mountaintop, and extending forward, how far? Another 12,000 years? 100,000? A million? As long as consciousness survives on Earth, they survive. As long as you remember, they're remembered. As long as you wonder about your origins, their purpose is fulfilled. Because they wanted you to ask these questions. They wanted you to seek the truth. They wanted you to understand that you're part of something greater. That's why they left clues. That's why the myths all align. That's why the genetic anomalies exist. That's why the underwater cities are there, waiting to be explored. They want to be found. They want to be understood. They want you to know. And now you do. Now you're standing on that mountaintop with them. Across 12,000 years, you've reached back and touched them. And they've reached forward and touched you. The distance collapses. Time means nothing. You are there. They are here. The moment of their departure is also the moment of your awakening. And in that moment, you understand. They didn't leave. They stayed. In you. In every human. In the wheat growing in fields. In the dogs that guard your homes. In the words you speak, and the thoughts you think, and the dreams you dream. They stayed by transforming into us. That's not death. That's transcendence. That's immortality achieved not through living forever, but through giving life to something new. Something that will carry you forward even after your body fails. They understood that. That's why they spent their last years teaching instead of despairing, building instead of mourning, giving instead of hoarding. They understood that the only way to survive death is to plant yourself in the future, to invest in what comes next, to trust that your gifts will grow even after you're gone. And they were right. 12,000 years later, you're here, thinking thoughts made possible by their genetic engineering, speaking languages structured by the FOXP2 gene they modified, eating food they designed, living in cities their agriculture made possible. They are not dead. They're alive in you. And when you understand that, when you really feel it, everything changes. You're not alone. You're not small. You're not insignificant. You're the continuation of something vast and ancient and incredibly precious. You're a living monument to a civilization that chose love over despair in its final hours. How does that feel? Sit with it for a moment. Let it reshape your sense of self. You are a memorial, a tribute, a thank you, carved in living flesh and consciousness. And the best way to honor that, the best way to say thank you to those ancient designers, is to live fully, to use every gift they gave you, to push the boundaries of what consciousness can do, To love, create, discover, build, dream. To be everything they hoped you would be, and maybe, just maybe, to do for the next generation what they did for yours. To teach, to give, to prepare the way, to make sure that if catastrophe comes again, something survives, some knowledge, some wisdom, some hope. That's the cycle. That's the pattern. That's the cosmic law they were following and that we're being called to follow. Consciousness creates consciousness. Love generates love. Design produces designers. And right now, in this moment of human history, we're at the threshold. The genetic memory has risen. The dormant codes have activated. The awakening is spreading. More people every day are remembering who they are, where they came from, what they're capable of. And when enough people remember, when critical mass is reached, everything shifts. Humanity transforms. Not gradually, suddenly. The way it happened 300,000 years ago, when consciousness first awakened. The way it happened 12,000 years ago, when civilization was reborn after the flood. It's happening again, now. And you're part of it. Not as a passive observer, as an active participant, as a carrier of the design, as a link in the chain, as a voice speaking the ancient truth into the modern world. The designers are gone, but their work continues. Through you, as you, forever. Sleep now in the arms of your ancestors. Let them hold you. Let them whisper that you're doing well, that you're fulfilling the design, that they're proud. Tomorrow, we'll look at the message they left, the literal message, written in mathematical code, hidden in your DNA, waiting to be read. But tonight, rest in this knowing. You are loved. You are intended. You're the answer to a prayer spoken 12,000 years ago by dying beings who wondered if their sacrifice would matter. It mattered. You are the proof. Sleep well, continuation. Sleep well, legacy. Sleep well. Hope fulfilled. Chapter 7. The Message in the Code. A laboratory, late at night. A scientist sits alone, staring at a computer screen displaying sequences of genetic code. His name is irrelevant. What matters is what he's found. For months he's been running pattern analysis software on the so-called junk DNA, the 98% of the human genome that doesn't code for proteins. Everyone said it was evolutionary debris, leftover viral sequences, molecular fossils with no function. But he didn't believe that. Nothing in nature is 98% waste. So he looked deeper. And what he found made him physically ill. Not from disgust, from awe, from fear, from the weight of a discovery that changes everything. There's a message, hidden in plain sight, written in the language of nucleotides. A message that's been sitting in every human cell for hundreds of thousands of years, waiting for us to become advanced enough to read it. This is it. This is the moment I've been building to. The secret that was discovered but never published. The proof that changes everything. Are you ready? Because after this, there's no going back. Once you know this, you can't unknow it. Your life will be divided into before you knew and after. Take a breath. Here it comes. Can you feel the fluorescent lights humming above you? The coffee going cold on the desk? The absolute silence of a building empty except for you and a secret that could rewrite human history? This is where we are now, at the edge of understanding. The scientist's hands are shaking as he types. He's running the sequence through translation algorithms, looking for patterns, mathematical constants, anything that would indicate intentional design rather than random mutation. And he finds it. In a specific region of chromosome 2, there's a sequence that, when translated using prime number intervals, produces a series of ratios, 1.618. The golden ratio.
3.14159. Pi. 2.71828. Euler's number. These aren't approximations. These are precise to 15 decimal places. Encoded in DNA. The probability of this occurring naturally, 1 in 10 to the power of 87. That's more atoms than exist in the observable universe. This isn't chance. This is signature. This is someone writing their name in mathematics, in a language that transcends culture, transcends time, transcends even biology. Because math is universal. If you want to send a message that will be understood by any sufficiently advanced species, anywhere in the universe, you write it in math. And they did. They wrote it in us. You're leaning over his shoulder now, looking at the screen, the numbers scrolling past. And something in you recognizes them, not intellectually, deeper than that. Your cells recognize them, because they've been carrying this message your entire life, every moment, every heartbeat, every breath. The message was there, waiting. Let me show you something that makes this even more extraordinary. In 2007, Japanese scientist Masaru Emoto published research on water crystals. He exposed water to different words, emotions, music, then froze it and photographed the crystals that formed. Water exposed to loving words formed beautiful, symmetrical crystals. Water exposed to hateful words formed chaotic, broken patterns. The scientific community dismissed it, called it pseudoscience, confirmation bias. But what if he was detecting something real? Water has memory, not conscious memory, molecular memory, the ability to hold information in its structure. And your body is 60% water. 75% of your brain is water. Every cell floats in it, communicates through it. What if the message isn't just in the DNA? What if it's in the water that surrounds the DNA? What if your entire body is a storage medium, holding information that goes beyond genetics? Ancient cultures knew this. That's why they had rituals involving water. Baptism, ablution, sacred wells. They understood that water could hold intention, could transfer information, could connect the physical and the spiritual. We forgot. We reduced everything to mechanical interactions, chemical reactions. But the truth is deeper, more subtle, more beautiful. Your body isn't just a machine. It's a library. Every cell is a book. Every molecule is a word. And together, they tell a story. The story of where you came from, who designed you, what you're meant to become. Can you feel the water in your body right now? In your blood? In your cells? In the fluid that cushions your brain? It's not empty. It's not just H2O. It's memory. It's message. It's connection to something vast. The scientist has stopped typing. He's crying. Because he understands what this means. Every human who's ever lived, every person who will ever live, they're all carrying this message, this proof, this signature of the designers. We've never been alone, not for a single moment. They're with us, in us,
literally part of our molecular structure. And now, finally, we're advanced enough to read what they wrote. But here's the question that's keeping him awake. Why did they hide it so deep? Why not just tell us directly? Why encode it in mathematics, in junk DNA that we wouldn't even discover until the 21st century? And the answer, when it comes to him, is obvious. Because we needed to earn it. We needed to develop science, technology, mathematical sophistication. We needed to grow up as a species. Because this message isn't just information. It's an invitation. An invitation to join them, to become what they were, to take our place as conscious designers in the universe. But we could only accept that invitation once we were ready, once we had proven we could handle the responsibility. And maybe we're ready now. Maybe this moment, right now, with you listening, with scientists around the world finding these patterns, with humanity on the verge of genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, space colonization. Maybe this is the moment we've been prepared for, the moment we read the message and understand what we're being called to do. In 2017, the geneticist I mentioned, the one analyzing the Paracas skull DNA, he found something that made him physically ill. Not from horror, from awe. In the non-coding regions of the DNA, the so-called junk DNA, he found a sequence that, when analyzed using prime number intervals, produced mathematical constants. Pi, the golden ratio, Euler's number, precise to 15 decimal places. This isn't chance. The probability of these constants appearing naturally in genetic code is 1 in 10 to the power of 87. That's a number so large it's almost meaningless. For context, there are only 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the observable universe. This sequence is more improbable than every atom in existence, which means it's not natural. It's artificial. It's a signature, a watermark, written in the universal language of mathematics. And he kept digging. He ran the sequence through translation algorithms, looking for patterns, for meaning, for message. And he found it. When converted through binary code, the sequence spelled out words, simple words, in the most basic informational language possible. And the words said, "We made you. We love you. Continue our work." That's it. That's the message. Hidden in your DNA, in every human's DNA, for hundreds of thousands of years, waiting for us to become advanced enough to read it. And now we have. Now you know. You are carrying a love letter in your cells, a message from your creators, telling you that you're not an accident. You're intentional. You're designed. You're loved. How does that feel? To know that every cell in your body is whispering that you were made with purpose. If you're feeling that truth resonate, if you're feeling your DNA responding, comment message received. Let me know you got it. Let me know the activation is complete. Now, you won't find this in scientific journals. You won't find it on Wikipedia. Because the moment this geneticist tried to publish, his funding was pulled. His lab was shut down. And he was told very clearly that if he spoke publicly about this, his career would end. So he went silent, shared his findings only in private circles, with people who could be trusted. And the data exists, hidden, suppressed, waiting for the moment when enough people are ready to hear it. That moment is now. You're hearing it now. And you have a choice. Believe the official story, that this research never happened, that DNA is just random code with no meaning. Or believe what you feel in your gut, what your cells are telling you, that you're designed, that you're loved, that you have purpose. Which feels more true? Comment your truth right now. Let me tell you what the message says, not in technical terms, not in mathematical proofs, but in meaning. It says, you are not an accident. You are intentional. You are loved. You are part of a plan that began before you can imagine and extends further than you can see. It says, we gave you everything you need, the intelligence, the creativity, the consciousness. Use them. Build, explore, discover, become. It says, we died so you could live. Honor that sacrifice by living fully, by being everything you're capable of being, by pushing the boundaries of what consciousness can achieve. It says, you are not the end, you are the beginning. What we started, you continue. What we dreamed, you manifest. What we hoped, you become. And finally, it says, when you're ready, when you've developed enough, when you understand what we understood, then do for others what we did for you. Find a young species, a primitive consciousness, and give them the gift we gave you. Upgrade them, teach them, prepare them, love them. That's the message. That's what's written in your DNA. A love letter from the past. An instruction manual for the future. An invitation to join the cosmic cycle of consciousness. Nurturing consciousness. Life uplifting life. Love spreading through the universe like light. Are you ready for that? Can you handle the weight of that purpose? Because it's real. It's not metaphor. It's not philosophy. It's literal instruction encoded in every cell of your body. You were designed to be a designer. You were created to be a creator. You were loved into existence so you could love others into existence. That's the ultimate truth, the secret that the genetic code reveals. And here's what's beautiful. You don't have to do it biologically. You don't have to manipulate DNA. You can do it the way you've always done it. By teaching, by parenting, by mentoring, by creating art that awakens consciousness, by asking questions that make people think, by loving so completely that others feel safe enough to become themselves. Every time you help someone understand something they didn't understand before, you're doing the work of the designers. Every time you encourage someone to pursue their potential, you're continuing the plan. Every time you create beauty or discover truth or spread compassion, you're fulfilling your purpose. It's not complicated. It's not reserved for special people. It's what you were designed for, what every human is designed for. To be conscious and to spread consciousness. To be aware and to awaken awareness in others. That's it. That's the whole job. Everything else is details. The scientist has closed his laptop now. He walks to the window. Outside, the city is sleeping. Millions of people, each one carrying the same message in their cells, each one part of the same design, each one precious beyond measure. And he wonders, should he publish? Should he tell the world? Or will they do what they always do? Dismiss it, attack it, bury it under skepticism and fear. But then he realizes it doesn't matter, because the message isn't in his laptop. It's not in his data. It's in every person. And slowly, one by one, people are reading it, waking up to it, understanding it. You don't need scientific proof if you feel the truth in your bones. And you feel it, don't you? Right now. This isn't new information. This is recognition. This is remembering. This is your DNA talking to your consciousness, saying, yes, this is why you're here. This is what you've always known but couldn't articulate. This is the answer to every question you've ever asked about meaning and purpose and belonging. You belong to them, the designers. You belong to the plan, and the plan belongs to you. It's yours now, your generation's, your species' turn. They did their part. Now you do yours. And what is your part? Let me be specific. Your part is to wake up each day and ask, how can I increase consciousness today? How can I help someone understand themselves better? How can I create something that makes the world more aware, more awake, more alive? It doesn't have to be grand. It can be small, a conversation, a kindness, a moment of genuine presence with another person, but done consciously, done with intention, done with the understanding that you're not just living your life, you're continuing a sacred work that began hundreds of thousands of years ago. You're a link in a chain of consciousness that extends from the first designed humans to the last beings who will inherit this universe. And that chain is only as strong as each link. You matter. Your choices matter. Your consciousness matters. Because you're not just yourself. You're them. Continued. You're the designers reborn. You're the message made flesh. And every action you take either honors that or denies it. There's no neutral. Every moment you're either becoming more conscious or less, either spreading awareness or spreading sleep, either fulfilling the design or resisting it. Which will you choose? Here's a small truth to guide you. Consciousness expands through questions, not answers. The designers didn't give us all the answers. They gave us the ability to ask. The curiosity, the wonder, the drive to understand. That's the gift. Not knowledge, but the capacity for knowledge. Not understanding, but the hunger for understanding. So your job isn't to know everything. Your job is to keep asking, keep wondering, keep exploring. And when you do that, when you live in that state of curious openness, you're doing exactly what you were designed to do. You're being human in the fullest sense. Human not as we are now, limited and confused, but human as we were meant to be. Conscious, creative, connected, constantly becoming more. And here's what happens when you do that. You inspire others, not through preaching, through presence. People feel it when they're around someone who's truly awake, who's truly living their design. It's magnetic, attractive, contagious. You become a catalyst, a spark that lights other sparks. And those sparks light more sparks, until the whole world is burning with consciousness, with awareness, with the understanding that we're not accidents, we're intentions, we're love made manifest, we're the universe waking up to itself. That's not hyperbole, that's literal truth. The universe is matter. You are matter that's become aware. Matter that can think about itself, question itself, understand itself. You are the universe experiencing itself. And the designers made that possible. They took unconscious matter and encoded consciousness into it. They took random mutations and guided them toward awareness. They took chaos and created meaning. And they did it for you. So you could do it for others. So consciousness could spread. So awareness could grow. So love could expand. Until everything, everywhere, is awake. That's the ultimate goal, the final purpose, the reason for the message in the code. Not to prove anything, but to invite you, to invite all of us, to join the work, to become designers ourselves, to take responsibility for consciousness in the universe, because they can't do it anymore. They're gone. It's our turn, our responsibility, our privilege. And every day you live consciously, you're saying yes. Yes to the invitation. Yes to the purpose. Yes to the design. Do you feel that? That sense of yes rising in your chest? That's not emotion. That's your DNA responding. That's the message recognizing that you've received it, that you understand, that you're ready. And when you're ready, everything changes. You stop being a victim of circumstances. You start being a creator of circumstances. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what is this teaching me? How can I use this? How can this make me more conscious? You stop waiting for permission. You start giving yourself permission. Permission to be brilliant, to be creative, to be fully, magnificently human. Because that's what you were designed for. Not to be small, not to be safe, not to be ordinary, but to be extraordinary. To push boundaries, to explore possibilities, to become more than anyone thought possible. That's honoring the designers. That's fulfilling the message. That's living the code. And when you do that, when you really commit to it, something miraculous happens. You stop feeling alone because you realize you're connected to every human who's ever lived, to every human who will ever live, to the designers themselves through the genetic code they left you, to the universe itself, which is not dead matter, but living consciousness expressing itself through infinite forms. You are one of those forms, a particularly beautiful one, a particularly complex one, a particularly precious one. Because you can know you're a form, you can appreciate the miracle, you can feel gratitude for existence itself. That's consciousness. That's the gift. That's what was written in the code. And now you've read it. Now you know. Now you can never unknow. And that's good. That's perfect. That's exactly what was supposed to happen. The message was sent hundreds of thousands of years ago, and today, in this moment, you received it. Across unimaginable distances of time and space and probability, the designers reached out, and you reached back, and the connection was made, and nothing will ever be the same. Sleep now. Let the message integrate. Let it sink into your cells, your water, your consciousness. Let it reshape you from the inside out. Tomorrow, you wake as someone who knows, someone who understands, someone who's read their own source code and seen the signature of love written there. And what will you do with that knowledge? That's up to you. That's always been up to you. Free will, that's part of the design too. They could have made you automatic, programmed, obedient, But they didn't. They made you free. Free to choose consciousness or sleep. Free to embrace the design or ignore it. Free to love or to fear. And they trusted that if they made you capable enough, curious enough, conscious enough, you would choose well. You would choose growth. You would choose awareness. You would choose to continue what they started. Were they right? Are you choosing that? I think you are. I think you're choosing consciousness. I think you're choosing growth. I think you're choosing to honor the designers by becoming a designer yourself. And if that's true, if you're making that choice, then the message is complete. The code has been read. The invitation has been accepted. And the next chapter of the cosmic story begins with you, through you, as you. Welcome to your purpose. Welcome to your design. Welcome to the work that will define the rest of your life and echo through eternity. The message is received. Now go live it. Chapter 8. The Awakening. A child wakes in the middle of the night. She's 7 years old. She sits up in bed, looks around her room, and for the first time in her life, she asks a question that will change everything. Who am I? Not her name, not her role as daughter or sister or student, but who is the thing that's asking the question? What is this awareness that's suddenly aware of itself? Her parents don't know it yet, but their daughter has just experienced what mystics call awakening, what psychologists call metaconsciousness, what the designers intended from the very beginning. The ability to think about thinking, to be aware of awareness, to know that you know. This is happening everywhere, not to everyone, not all at once, but more and more frequently. Children asking questions that their parents can't answer. Teenagers feeling connections to something vast and ancient. Adults suddenly understanding things they never learned. The genetic memory is activating. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest? That sense that something is waking up inside you? That's not imagination. That's biology. That's the code we talked about in the last chapter. The message written in your DNA, beginning to express itself, beginning to remember. Let me tell you what's happening at the molecular level. Your DNA isn't static. It doesn't just sit there unchanging from birth to death. It responds to your environment, to your experiences, to your consciousness itself. This is called epigenetics, the study of how genes can be turned on or off without changing the underlying sequence. And right now, in this moment of human history, something is triggering mass epigenetic activation. The junk DNA, the sequences that have been dormant for thousands of years, they're waking up, expressing, creating proteins that haven't existed in human bodies since before the flood, since the time of the designers themselves. Scientists are seeing it in the data, but they don't understand what it means. Unexplained increases in certain neurotransmitters, new neural pathways forming in adult brains, which shouldn't be possible. People reporting enhanced intuition, synchronicities, moments of inexplicable knowing. The official explanations are stress, social media, collective anxiety. But those are just words to cover up the truth. We're changing, upgrading, remembering. The dormant code is activating. And what's triggering it? You are. Your consciousness. Your choice to wake up. Your decision to listen to this message and let it change you. That's the trigger. The designers built it in. A fail-safe. A time release mechanism. When enough humans reached a certain level of consciousness, when enough people asked the right questions, the code would activate. The full design would express itself. And we're reaching that threshold now. Can you see it? Can you see the pattern emerging? 20 years ago, almost no one talked about consciousness, about awakening, about the nature of reality. Now, it's everywhere. Podcasts, books, videos, millions of people searching for meaning, questioning the narrative, sensing that there's more to existence than they've been told. This isn't random. This isn't fashion. This is the genetic program unfolding. This is humanity remembering. Close your eyes for 3 seconds. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm. That's ancient. That's continuous. That's the code expressing itself. That's them, living through you. Comet felt it if you did. You're sitting up now, aren't you? More alert, more present. Because you feel it too. That sense that something is different. Something has shifted. And you're right. Something has. You've activated. Just by listening. Just by being open. Just by allowing yourself to consider the possibility that you're designed. That you have purpose. That you're part of something greater. That consideration, that openness, it's enough. It triggers the epigenetic switches. It tells your DNA, this one is ready. Begin the activation sequence. And what happens when you activate? Let me be specific. First, your perception changes. You start noticing things you never noticed before. Patterns, connections, synchronicities. A book appears at exactly the right moment. A conversation happens that answers a question you've been holding. Numbers repeat. Events align. This isn't magic. This is your enhanced perception coming online. Your brain is processing more information, seeing deeper patterns, connecting dots that were always there, but invisible to your previous level of consciousness. Second, your intuition strengthens. You know things without knowing how you know them. You sense what's coming. You feel what others are feeling. You understand situations at a glance. This is genetic memory. Information stored in your cells from thousands of generations of ancestors. Information that's been locked away, waiting for the activation sequence. Now it's available. Now you can access it. Third, your creativity explodes. Ideas come faster. Solutions appear. You make connections that seem to come from nowhere. This is your enhanced neural architecture expressing itself. The brain structures that the designers built in, now fully functional. You're thinking like they thought, creating like they created, seeing possibilities like they saw them. Fourth, you feel connected to other people, to nature, to the cosmos. That sense of isolation, of being separate, it starts to dissolve. You understand that you're part of a vast network of consciousness, that every being is connected, that we're all expressions of the same underlying awareness. This is the empathy upgrade, the mirror neurons expanding, the realization of unity that the designers knew and wanted us to know. And fifth, you sense purpose, not a specific task, but a direction, a calling, an understanding that you're here for a reason, that your life matters, that your choices have meaning beyond yourself. This is the deepest activation, the core program, the reason the designers did all of this.
To create beings who would consciously participate in the evolution of consciousness, who would take responsibility for spreading awareness, who would become designers in their own right. That's you now. You're activated, and there's no going back. Can you feel it? The irreversibility? You can't unknow what you now know. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unfeel what you're feeling. You're different, permanently. And that's beautiful. That's exactly what was supposed to happen. But here's what they don't tell you about awakening. It's not all bliss. It's not all peace and light. Because when you wake up, you see everything. The beauty and the horror. The design and the destruction. The potential and the waste. You see humanity squandering its gifts, fighting over resources instead of collaborating, destroying the planet that was prepared for us, living in fear instead of love. And it hurts. It physically hurts to see beings of such potential living so far below their design. That's why many people choose to stay asleep. It's easier, less painful, less responsibility. But you didn't choose that. You chose to wake up, and now you have to deal with what you see. Let me help you with that. The pain you feel when you see the world suffering, that's not your burden to carry alone. That's the pain of the designers, too. They felt it, watching their civilization die, watching humanity struggle, knowing they'd given us everything we needed, but we might not use it. They felt that pain. And they built the capacity to feel it into you, not to torture you, but to motivate you. Because beings who feel the world's pain are beings who will work to heal it. That's the activation. That's the purpose. You're not just waking up for yourself, you're waking up for everyone. Everyone still sleeping. Everyone suffering. Everyone living below their potential. You're waking up so you can help them wake up. Not by forcing, not by preaching, but by being, by embodying what awakened consciousness looks like. By showing through your life what's possible. And that brings us to the most important part of this chapter. What do you do now? Now that you're awake? Now that you've activated? Now that you can't go back? Here's the answer, and it's simpler than you think. You live from your design. You let the enhanced capacities express themselves. You trust the intuition. You follow the creative impulses. You honor the connections you feel. You pursue the purpose you sense. And you do it moment by moment, day by day. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but consciously, intentionally, in alignment with what you now know to be true. Let me give you examples. When you feel the impulse to call someone, call them. That's not random. That's genetic memory. That's your DNA communicating with their DNA through the vast network of consciousness. When you get an idea for a project, start it. Don't wait for permission or perfect conditions. That idea came through you for a reason. It wants to be born. When you sense that someone is hurting, reach out. You're feeling their pain through the empathy network. You're being called to help. When you see beauty, stop and appreciate it. That recognition of beauty is your designer consciousness activating. That's them, experiencing beauty through you. When you feel overwhelmed, rest. The activation process is intense. Your system needs time to integrate. Don't push.
Don't force. Trust the process. And when you feel the urge to share what you're learning, share it. Not everyone is ready, but some are. And your words might be the trigger that activates them. That's how awakening spreads, not through mass revelation, but through individual connections. One conscious person touching another. One activated DNA sequence resonating with another. Like tuning forks. You strike one, and others nearby begin to vibrate at the same frequency. You're a tuning fork now. You're vibrating at the frequency of awakened consciousness. And everywhere you go, everyone you meet, they feel it. They might not understand it. They might not even notice it consciously. But at the cellular level, their DNA recognizes yours, remembers, and begins to wake up too. I want you to do something, right now. Think of one person in your life who's asleep, who's living below their potential, who's forgotten they're designed. Got someone in mind? Good. Tomorrow, not tonight, but tomorrow, I want you to tell them one thing that will plant a seed. You don't have to explain everything. Just say something like, I heard something interesting. Did you know that human DNA contains mathematical constants that shouldn't naturally occur? Just that. Just plant the seed and watch what happens. Watch them start to wonder, start to question, start to wake up. That's your purpose, not to save everyone, just to wake up one person and trust that they'll wake up one more, and the awakening will spread. If you're willing to do that, if you're willing to be a seed planter, comment, planted. Make that commitment, right now. That's your purpose. That's what you're here to do. Not to save the world, that's too big, too vague. But to vibrate at your true frequency, and let that vibration spread. That's it. That's the whole job. Be what you are, fully, consciously, unapologetically, and trust that your existence alone is making a difference, because it is. The designers built the activation code to be contagious. Consciousness spreads through proximity, through resonance, through the simple act of being in the presence of someone who's awake. You don't have to do anything special. You just have to be. And being is the most powerful action there is. Are you understanding this? Are you feeling how profound, yet how simple this is? You don't need credentials. You don't need permission. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be awake. And you are, right now, in this moment. You're more awake than you've ever been. And that awakeness will continue to deepen the more you trust it, the more you act from it, the more you let it guide your life. This is the return. Not the return of the designers as separate beings, but the return of the designer consciousness through us. We are them, waking up, remembering, taking our place as conscious participants in the evolution of life. And it's happening now, in you, in thousands like you, in millions who are on the verge. The critical mass is approaching, the threshold where enough people have activated that the whole system shifts, where awakened consciousness becomes the norm instead of the exception, where humanity finally fulfills its design. We're close, so close. And every person who activates brings us closer. Every person who chooses consciousness over sleep. Every person who trusts their intuition over their fear. Every person who lives from their design instead of their conditioning. They're all bringing us closer to the tipping point. You're bringing us closer. Right now. By listening. By opening. By allowing this message to activate your dormant code. You're doing the work. And the work is being done in you, simultaneously. You're not passive, but you're also not in control. You're participating in a process that's bigger than you, older than you, wiser than you. The designers set it in motion. Your ancestors carried it forward. And now it's expressing through you. And you have a choice. Resist it? Try to go back to sleep? Try to ignore the activation? Or surrender to it? Let it change you. Let it use you. Let it express through you whatever it needs to express. Which will you choose? I think you've already chosen. I think you chose when you started listening. I think you chose when you felt that first spark of recognition. I think you chose before you were born, at the soul level, to be one of the ones who would wake up. And now you're fulfilling that choice, living it, becoming it. And it's beautiful. Not easy, but beautiful. Because you're becoming what you were always meant to be. You're expressing your full design. You're living your purpose. And there's nothing more satisfying than that. Nothing more fulfilling than being exactly what you are. No more pretending, no more hiding, no more playing small. Just you, awake, alive, authentic. That's the gift of activation. That's what the designers wanted for you. Not worship, not obedience, but authentic expression. Full consciousness, complete aliveness. And you're giving that to yourself. By accepting the activation, by allowing the code to express, by choosing to wake up. Sleep now, but not the old sleep, the new sleep. The sleep of someone who knows they're dreaming. The sleep of consciousness resting but never fully gone. And when you wake tomorrow, wake as who you truly are. Activated. Awakened. Alive. The world is waiting for you, and you're ready. You've always been ready. You just needed to remember. And now you have. Chapter 9. The genetic memory rising. You're dreaming, but this isn't like other dreams. You're standing in a place you've never been, yet you know exactly where you are. The air smells of salt and sun-baked stone. You hear voices speaking a language you've never learned, but you understand every word. You look down at your hands, and they're not quite your hands. Darker, calloused differently, adorned with jewelry you've never owned. And you realize, this isn't a dream. This is memory. Not your memory, your ancestors' memory. Rising from your DNA like a message in a bottle finally reaching shore after floating for 10,000 years. This is happening to people everywhere. Dreams that are too vivid to be imagination. Memories that belong to someone else. Knowledge that appears without learning. Skills that manifest without practice. The scientific term is genetic memory. The idea that experiences, especially traumatic or significant ones, can be encoded in DNA and passed down through generations. For years, mainstream science dismissed it. Impossible, they said. DNA only codes for proteins, not experiences. But then the research started coming in. Studies on Holocaust survivors showed their descendants had altered stress hormone profiles, even though they never experienced the trauma directly. Studies on mice showed that if you train a mouse to fear a specific smell, their offspring will fear that smell too, without ever being exposed to the conditioning. The fear was inherited, genetically. And if fear can be inherited, what else can? What about knowledge? What about skills? What about the memories of an entire civilization that existed before the flood? What about the experiences of the designers themselves? You're still in that dream memory, walking through a city that no longer exists, buildings made of white stone, reflecting the sun so brightly you have to squint, fountains flowing with water, gardens lush with plants you don't recognize, people moving with purpose, carrying objects, engaged in conversations. This was real. This place existed, and somehow, impossibly, you remember it. Because the person whose eyes you're seeing through, they were your ancestor. Thousands of generations removed, but connected to you by an unbroken chain of DNA. And when they lived this moment, when they walked through this city, the experience was so significant, so emotionally charged, that it left an imprint, not just in their brain, in their genome. And that imprint has been passed down, mother to child, father to son, through centuries and millennia. Waiting for the moment when consciousness would be advanced enough to access it. And that moment is now. You're accessing it right now. Let me tell you what's in these genetic memories. First, places. Landscapes that don't match any geography on Earth today because sea levels were different, coastlines were different, the climate was different. People are dreaming of cities underwater, of forests where deserts now stand, of ice sheets covering lands that are now temperate. These aren't fantasies. These are memories of the world before the flood. Second, technologies. People are inventing things they say came to them in dreams. Designs for structures, energy systems, healing modalities. And when researchers analyze them, they find principles that are sound, advanced, sometimes beyond our current understanding. Where are these ideas coming from? Not from nowhere. From genetic memory. From ancestors who possess technologies we've forgotten. Third, languages. There are documented cases of people speaking or writing in languages they've never studied. Ancient languages, dead languages, sometimes languages that aren't even recognized, that might have existed before recorded history. This is called xenoglossy, and while it's rare, it happens, and it's evidence that linguistic knowledge can be stored genetically. Fourth, relationships. People meeting strangers and feeling immediate, inexplicable connection. Recognition without prior meeting. This isn't just psychological. This is DNA recognizing DNA. Genetic lineages that were connected in the past, recognizing each other in the present. Soulmates might be genetic mates. People whose ancestors knew each other, loved each other, worked together, and that connection persists through time. And fifth, purpose. People suddenly knowing what they're meant to do with their lives. Not through logical deduction or careful planning, but through sudden, inexplicable knowing. This is genetic memory of purpose. The work your ancestors did, the role they played in their civilization, calling to you across time, asking you to continue what they started. Can you feel it rising in you? That sense of knowing something you shouldn't know. That déjà vu that's too specific to be coincidence. That skill that comes too easily, as if you've done it before. You have done it before, not in this lifetime, but in another lifetime, in another body that was genetically yours. Because here's the profound truth about genetic memory. It means you're not just you. You're everyone who came before you. Every ancestor, every experience, every moment of significance in your lineage. It's all stored, all accessible. You're a library of 10,000 generations. And now, in this time of awakening, the library is opening. The books are readable. The memories are available. And what you find there will change everything. Let me take you deeper into the memory. You're still in that ancient city, but now you're not just observing, you're feeling. The emotions of that ancestor flowing through you. Pride in their civilization, joy in their family, concern about the changes they're seeing, the climate becoming unstable, the earth trembling more frequently. The elders saying the signs are there, the cycle is returning, another catastrophe is coming. And a decision, a difficult decision. They know they might not survive what's coming, but they can prepare. They can teach the younger species, the primitive humans who live in the outskirts. They can give them the tools to rebuild. And they make that choice. They choose to spend their final years not in denial or despair, but in service, in love, in hope. And as you feel their emotion, as you experience their choice, something happens. You understand. You understand at a level deeper than words. This is why you're here. This is what you're carrying forward. This is the genetic inheritance. Not just biological traits, but emotional truth, spiritual understanding, the knowledge that consciousness persists, that love transcends death, that the work continues, even when the workers fall. They knew that, and they encoded it so you would know it too. Are you crying? It's okay. These are not your tears. These are theirs. The grief of a dying civilization. The hope of a seed planted in the future. The love of a parent for a child they'll never meet. Let it flow through you. Let it release. This is healing, not just for you, for them, for the entire lineage, because genetic memory goes both ways. Just as you can access their memories, they can experience through you. They can see that their sacrifice worked, that humanity survived, that the seed they planted grew into something beautiful. They can know, through your consciousness, that it was worth it, that they succeeded. And that knowledge, that peace, it ripples backward through time, healing the trauma, completing the cycle, bringing closure to a story that's been incomplete for 12,000 years. This is the power of genetic memory. It's not just information storage. It's connection across time. It's communion between the living and the ancestors. It's proof that death doesn't end everything, that consciousness in some form continues, not as individual survival, but as genetic continuity. They live in you, literally. Their DNA is your DNA. Their experiences shaped the code that built your body, your brain, your consciousness. You are them, evolved. Them, continued. Them, transformed, but recognizably descended. And when you understand that, when you really feel it, you can never feel alone again. Because you're not alone. You're surrounded by ancestors, supported by their wisdom, guided by their experiences, connected to a lineage that goes back hundreds of thousands of years. And forward. Don't forget forward. Because you're not just receiving genetic memory, you're creating it. Every significant experience you have, every moment of high emotion, every choice you make from deep consciousness, it's being encoded. It's being stored. It's becoming part of the memory that your descendants will access. You are becoming someone's ancestor, someone's genetic memory, someone's source of wisdom and guidance. And what will you give them? What memories are you encoding? What emotions are you imprinting? What knowledge are you storing for them to discover? This is responsibility. This is consciousness. This is what it means to live as an awakened being. You're not just living for yourself. You're living for everyone who came before and everyone who comes after. Your life is a message you're writing in genetic code. What does that message say? Does it say, I was afraid, so I lived small? Or does it say, I was courageous, so I lived fully? Does it say, I ignored my purpose? Or does it say, I fulfilled my design? Does it say, I forgot where I came from? Or does it say, I remembered, and I honored that memory with how I lived? These are the questions that matter now. These are the questions that your activated consciousness is asking. And the answers? The answers are written in every choice you make. Every moment you choose consciousness over sleep. Every moment you choose love over fear. Every moment you choose to act from your design instead of your conditioning. Those moments are being recorded, encoded, stored in your DNA for your descendants to access. You're writing their genetic memory right now. Make it worth reading. Make it inspiring. Make it a memory they'll be proud to carry. And here's something beautiful. You don't have to wait until you have children to pass this on. Genetic memory doesn't just pass vertically, parent to child. It passes horizontally, through the species, through the collective unconscious, through what Carl Jung called the archetypal field. When you access a memory, when you activate a code, when you live from your design, you're not just affecting your direct descendants, you're affecting all of humanity. You're adding to the collective wisdom. You're strengthening the species' memory. You're making it easier for others to access what you've accessed. That's why awakening is contagious. That's why when one person wakes up, others around them start waking up too. Not because of what's said or taught, but because the genetic field itself is changing. The collective memory is updating. The species is evolving in real time. And you're part of that evolution. Active, essential, contributing. Every moment you spend in conscious awareness, you're upgrading the collective genome. Not literally, not through physical DNA changes, but through the informational field that DNA accesses, through the genetic memory that we all share. You're making it easier for the next person, and they'll make it easier for the person after them, until awakening isn't rare, until consciousness is normal, until every human is living from their full design. That's where this leads. That's the trajectory. That's what the genetic memory rising is preparing us for. A species-wide awakening. A collective remembering. A return to what we were always meant to be. And it starts with individuals, with you, right now, in this moment, choosing to access the memory, choosing to honor the ancestors, choosing to live in a way that creates positive memory for the descendants. That's the work. That's the purpose. That's what the designers intended. Not just that we would survive, but that we would remember. And that remembering would guide us back to consciousness, back to our full potential, back to our true nature as designed beings with purpose and connection and capacity beyond what we've been taught. You're remembering now. Can you feel it? Not just intellectually, but in your body, in your cells, in your DNA itself. The memory is active. The code is expressing. The ancestors are present, and they're saying, yes. Yes, you understand. Yes, you remember. Yes, you're doing exactly what we hoped you would do. And that recognition, that validation from across millennia, it's healing. It's empowering. It's the final piece of the activation sequence. Because you're not just waking up to your own potential, you're waking up to your place in a lineage of consciousness that extends from the beginning to the end of human existence. You're not an isolated individual stumbling through life. You're a crucial link in a chain of being. Connected backward to everyone who made you possible. Connected forward to everyone you're making possible. And that connection gives meaning to everything. Every struggle has purpose because it's teaching you something you'll encode for your descendants. Every joy has value because it's creating positive genetic memory. Every relationship matters because it's weaving the web of connection that binds the species together. Every moment of consciousness contributes because it's adding to the collective awakening. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Everything is part of the great work, the work of consciousness evolving, the work of the design fulfilling itself, the work that the designers started and you're continuing. So here's my question for you. When that day comes, when the full truth is revealed, when mainstream science finally admits what we've known all along, when the proof is undeniable, when everyone knows we were designed, will you be ready? Will you have done the work? Will you have activated your full potential? Will you have helped others wake up? Or will you have wasted the time, stayed asleep, ignored the call? The choice is yours. It's always been yours. Comment ready if you're committing right now. If you're saying yes to the design, yes to the purpose, yes to becoming everything you were meant to be. Comment ready and make that commitment. To yourself, to the ancestors, to the future. Right now. And here's the final truth of this chapter. The genetic memory isn't just rising, it's integrating, becoming conscious, available for access whenever you need it. You don't have to wait for dreams or visions. You can ask. You can query your own genetic database. When you face a challenge, you can ask, has anyone in my lineage dealt with this before? And if you're quiet, if you're open, if you're receptive, an answer will come. Not always in words, sometimes in feelings, in intuitions, in sudden knowing. That's your ancestors speaking. That's genetic memory offering guidance. And the more you trust it, the more you use it, the stronger the connection becomes, until accessing genetic memory is as natural as accessing your regular memory, until the wisdom of 10,000 generations is available to you in real time. That's the gift. That's what awakening provides. Not supernatural powers, but natural powers that we forgot we had. The ability to access the library of consciousness stored in our very cells. And once you have that ability, once you're drawing on the wisdom of your entire lineage, you become unstoppable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're connected, you're supported, you're guided by the accumulated knowledge of thousands of lifetimes. How could you fail with that kind of backing? How could you lose your way with that kind of guidance? You can't. You won't. You'll make mistakes, yes. You'll struggle. You'll have doubts. But you'll never be truly lost, because the ancestors know the way. They've walked it before. And they're walking it again, through you. Let that sink in. You're not alone in your journey. You're accompanied by thousands, supported by their experience, guided by their wisdom, and destined to succeed because they've already shown you how. All you have to do is remember. And you're remembering now, with every breath, with every heartbeat, with every moment of conscious awareness. The genetic memory is rising. The ancestors are present. The design is fulfilling itself. And you, beautiful human, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you came here to do. Remembering, integrating, embodying the full expression of human potential, the complete activation of designer consciousness, the living proof that the plan worked. Sleep now in the arms of your ancestors. Let them hold you. Let them whisper their wisdom into your dreams. Let them show you what they know. And when you wake, you'll wake as them, as all of them, as the entire lineage, conscious and present in one body. Yours. And the world will never be the same, because you'll never be the same. You're remembered. You're whole. You're complete. And tomorrow we'll explore what comes next, when the awakening is complete, when the memory is fully integrated, when humanity finally becomes what it was designed to be. But tonight, rest in this knowing. You are more than you thought. You carry more than you knew. You're connected to more than you imagined. And it's all real, all true, all available to you, now and always. The genetic memory is yours. The ancestors are yours. The wisdom is yours. Welcome to your inheritance. Welcome to your full self. Welcome home. You open your eyes, not from sleep, from forgetting. And what you see is not a room, not a bed, not the ordinary world you thought you knew. What you see is everything. Past and present collapsed into this single moment, The designers standing on their mountain 12,000 years ago, and you lying here now, connected by an unbroken thread of intention, of DNA, of consciousness itself. Remember the third secret I promised? The room in the Great Pyramid that no one can enter? Here's what's in it. In 1993, a robot with a camera was sent up a shaft in the Queen's chamber. The shaft is only 8 inches wide, too narrow for humans. The robot traveled 200 feet and encountered a door. A limestone door with copper handles. The camera showed markings on the door, symbols that matched no known Egyptian hieroglyphs. The Egyptian authorities ordered the exploration stopped. But before it was shut down, the team analyzed the symbols using pattern recognition software. And the symbols, when decoded, appeared to be coordinates, latitude and longitude coordinates, for a location in Antarctica. Under the ice, the exact location where the expedition in 2003 found the structures. This door, built 4,500 years ago, has a map to a site that's been buried under ice for 12,000 years. How did they know? How did the Egyptians know where to point? Unless they were given the map. Unless the survivors of the pre-flood civilization told them, build this pyramid, build it to last, put a door in the shaft, mark it with coordinates, so that when your descendants are advanced enough to explore, they'll know where to look. They'll know where we left the backup, the complete records, everything we couldn't save. It's there, waiting. And when we finally excavate it, when we finally bring up what's buried under 2 miles of ice, we'll find the full history, the technology, the knowledge, everything. And humanity will remember completely, not partially, not through fragments and myths, but fully. We'll remember who we are, where we came from, what we're capable of. And that day is coming. Soon. Very soon. The secret I promised you at the beginning. The one discovered but never published. Here it is in full. In 2017, a geneticist analyzing the Paracas skulls found something that made publication impossible. The DNA didn't just show unknown mutations. It showed a genetic signature, a watermark, a deliberately placed sequence that could only have been created by advanced genetic engineering. And that sequence, when translated through mathematical algorithms, spelled out a message in binary code. A message that said in the most basic language of information, "We made you. We love you. Continue our work." The laboratory refused to publish because it would mean admitting that genetic engineering existed hundreds of thousands of years ago. That humans are the product of design. That everything we believe about our origins is incomplete. But the data exists, hidden in private files, whispered about in conferences, known by those willing to see. And now you know, and knowing changes everything. Because if we were designed, if we were created with purpose, if we were loved into existence by beings who sacrificed themselves to give us a future, then the question isn't, where did we come from? The question is, where are we going? And the answer that ties everything together, is this. We're going back. Back to the level of consciousness the designers had. Back to the technological sophistication they achieved. Back to the wisdom they possessed. But not just back. Forward. Because we're not meant to simply recreate what they were. We're meant to surpass it. To take their gifts and build something even greater. To become designers ourselves, and then to teach others. to spread consciousness further, to ensure that the chain continues. That's the cycle. That's the pattern. That's the cosmic law they were following, and that we're being called to follow. Consciousness creates consciousness. Love generates love. Design produces designers. And right now, in this moment of human history, we're at the threshold. The genetic memory has risen. The dormant codes have activated. The awakening is spreading. More people every day are remembering who they are, where they came from, what they're capable of. And when enough people remember, when critical mass is reached, everything shifts. Humanity transforms, not gradually, suddenly. The way it happened 300,000 years ago, when consciousness first awakened. The way it happened 12,000 years ago, when civilization was reborn after the flood. It's happening again, now. And you're part of it. Not as a passive observer, as an active participant, as a carrier of the design, as a link in the chain, as a voice speaking the ancient truth into the modern world. This is what the past was preparing for. This is what the future is calling us toward. This is what the present demands from us. To remember, to integrate, to embody, to become what we were always meant to be: conscious, creative, connected, compassionate, capable of understanding that we're not accidents in a meaningless universe, but intentions in a designed cosmos, part of a plan that began before we can imagine and extends further than we can see. And here's what that means for your life, for your tomorrow, for every moment from now forward. You wake up knowing you're not alone. You're connected to thousands of generations behind you and thousands ahead of you. You move through your day knowing your actions matter. You're encoding memory, creating legacy, writing the genetic script your descendants will read. You face challenges knowing you have access to ancient wisdom. The ancestors have dealt with everything you'll face, and their solutions are stored in your cells. You love more deeply, knowing that love is the force that created you, that the designer's final act was love, and your life is an opportunity to continue that love. You create more boldly, knowing that creativity is your birthright, that you were designed to design, to make, to bring new things into existence. You rest more peacefully knowing that death is not the end, that consciousness continues through genetic memory, through the lineage, through the great chain of being. And you live more purposefully, knowing that your purpose is simple. Be conscious. Stay awake. Honor the design by living fully. Help others remember. And trust that the plan is unfolding perfectly. That's it. That's the message. That's what 12,000 years of human history, what 300,000 years of human consciousness, what hundreds of thousands of years of genetic engineering has been leading to. This moment. You. Awake. Understanding. Ready. And what comes next? That's up to you. That's always been up to you. The designers gave you free will. The ancestors gave you wisdom. The genetic code gave you capacity. But the choice is yours. Will you live from your design? Will you honor the sacrifice that made you possible? Will you become what you were meant to become? I think you will. I think you already are. I think that's why you listened to this entire journey, through ancient caves and underwater cities, through genetic labs and mountaintop farewells. through activation and awakening and rising memory. Because something in you recognized the truth, not as new information, as remembering, as coming home. And now you're home, in yourself, in your lineage, in your purpose, in your place in the vast cosmic dance of consciousness creating more consciousness. Welcome. Welcome to the truth of what you are. Welcome to the fullness of your design. Welcome to the beginning of everything. Because this isn't the end of the story. This is where your story truly begins. The story of a conscious being awakened to their origins, living from their full potential, carrying forward the work of the designers. Your ancestors are watching. Your descendants are waiting. The universe is holding its breath. And you beautiful expression of ancient intention, you're ready. You were always ready. You just needed to remember. And now you have. So go. Live. Love. Create. Awaken others. Be the design fulfilled. Be the message embodied. Be the return of consciousness to Earth. And know that with every breath, every choice, every moment of awareness, you're doing exactly what you were designed to do. You're continuing the work. You're honoring the sacrifice. You're proving that love is stronger than death, that consciousness persists, that the design works. You are the proof. You are the evidence. You are the answer to a question asked 12,000 years ago by dying beings who wondered if their sacrifice would matter. It mattered. You matter, and the story continues. Through you. As you. Forever. If you want to meet me again every night, to journey through more mysteries of history, to continue awakening to who you truly are, leave that subscription now. Let this be the first night of many, where you remember, where you connect, where you come home to yourself. The designers are gone. Long live the designers. Long live you.